to take a break if this is too long.
Okay, I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Saugatuck Township Board, Wednesday, March 9 at 6 o'clock. And I will go ahead and call the roll. Ooh, yeah, we'll do the roll call first, then the pledge. Aldrich.
Here.
Bickford.
Here.
Helmrich.
Here,
Marcy.
Here.
Osmond here. All present and accounted for. And if everybody would rise if you can, and we'll say pledge allegiance again.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. DeFranco, if once again you could do the Zoom instructions.
Oh, absolutely. Please say your name before speaking and before making a motion. Please mute yourself when you are not speaking. Do not click unknown links that may be shared in the Zoom chat. The township does not disseminate information with this function. The meeting is being recorded. Please be respectful of those speaking and do not interrupt. If anyone is disruptive to the point of preventing the township board from conducting business, you will get one warning before being removed from the meeting. If there is a problem with Zoom, the meeting will be reset utilizing the same meeting information. If the meeting is unable to continue, a notice will be issued on the township website and Facebook page. Please be patient as we are learning a new system. We will attempt to be as deliberate as possible and get through this as a team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeFranco. We are to the point in our meeting where we can approve the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I have a change, but I can just make it in the motion if you're okay with that.
Sure.
I move to approve the agenda and add agenda item hiring process to new business, and that would be at 5.5.
what?
Is there support?
I'll second.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow 5.5.
It would be after
After
new
the-
business item 5, so it'd be 5.5.
Oh, before
Right.
6.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry.
And I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and support to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item would be our public comments. Are there people in the audience, anyone in the audience that would like to make a public comment? Kevin?
You are amazing.
You beat me.
You should
Get
go
in there.
first.
No. I just have a 7 o'clock.
You wanna go first?
You go.
Okay, mine's 3 minutes, less than 3.
3 minutes.
Okay, I just wanted to say hi, I'm Kevin Whiteford. I am from South Haven, and I am running for the 38th District State House seat. That seat represents the northern part of Saugatuck Township, all the way down to the Indiana border. So I am very excited. You're gonna find out I'm very excited about this. Why? We have 15 family members in South Haven. Just in the past 5 years, we just figured it out real quick, a little over $15 million just in real estate projects, just in the South Haven area. We got a few $1 million going out in the next 5 years in Berrien County. And that's an exciting project, by the way, because we're cleaning up a bunch of drug areas, and that township is static, and I'm just having fun doing it. Anyways, I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a CPA. I have a master's in tax law. You may know me a little bit because my wife is the current state rep for the 80th district, which represents your district also. There's 2 incredible common things that we have for, her and I. One is we work very hard. We're hard workers. The second thing is, when you operate as many businesses as I do and have, you learn where your experts are. And you find out, you know what? I use them all the time, because a building project, let's face it, I'm gonna find the best drywall, I'm gonna find the best concrete guy, I'm gonna find the best. And if they don't work out, then I'm gonna have to figure out how to move on. And that's what we do. And what I like about that is we will look to you. Mary has, I know in the past, I will too, because you need to know what's going on at the local level, and so that we can figure out how to help you. Now, one of the things that I've already done is I have met with some of the key people between Indiana, which is New Buffalo, and here now with you guys, but, and I'm talking mayors, commissioners, all kinds of people, real estate developers, different people within those communities. So I just wanted to say that that is something that I have done, I will continue to do, and I'm having fun doing it. Two of the things that I am passionate about is one, the next generation. I want to find a pathway for the next generation, and it's obvious, I got a bunch of them coming up the pipe through the family. I want to find pathways that I have had to get to where I'm at, because I started with nothing. And I want to understand how we can do that so that they can nourish it the same way and they can stay here in the state of Michigan. The second thing that I'm going to be incredibly passionate at is going to be small businesses. Small businesses are the community they are our community. So I'm going to work hard to do that. Thank you for the time to have me today. My name is Kevin Whiteford. You'll see that I'm very passionate, and thank you guys for what you do. And again, I'm running for the 38th District State House. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Capitan.
Thanks, Steve. First of all, I'll give a little tell for Blue Star Trail. It is, I was in it way from the beginning. John was just saying, wait a minute, did you introduce Jeannie? I was there. Yes, I was, John. So anyway, we've got back a long ways. That's a tremendous project. Also, what Kevin says, I know him. He cares for people. That's the biggest thing that I've seen with him. What he says he'll do. And he's helped a lot of different areas that I know of. Just to mention to you that we have a huge topic that we've discussed with you, but it's our topic. We're discussing it tomorrow. It's been the hot item, and that's broadband on water. And I just want to just alert you with this. And that is, I think that you've been contacted. There's a meeting coming up. And what I've noticed is that some of the townships have done nothing. Some other townships, for instance, Lee Township has got a hold of Bloomingdale. They've looked at fiber in their area. They've already have a plan in place. And I heard the comment at a meeting a couple of days ago, and they said, wait a second, if Lee's Township's ready, we should get going and spend some money over there and just get it going. Well, I'm going, well, how would that be fair to the other groups? Maybe they didn't know they could start going. Maybe they didn't know they could get a hold of somebody. So I'm just saying, and then the water topic came up, and then we have Otsego, and there was another township that said, wait a minute, we have a water project. We want the money to go to that. So I only say that to you to say that I don't want to say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I just want to say to you that in order for myself and other commissioners to go, wait a second, Saugatuck has this issue. I talked to them. They have this, they've written it down. That your group should really take the time and say, wait a minute, for broadband, this percentage of our township has it, this percentage of it doesn't. We want it desperately. And I don't know what you're doing with your ARPA funds as far as you'll put in this much and that will come up with a meeting that you're going to. But as far as for that, or even for your ideas with water, saying, man, our water is good, it isn't good. Maybe we should do a pipeline into Lake Michigan. Maybe that's just some seed money to get that started. Or some thoughts that you have to say, wait a minute, I know other people have needs, we have water needs too. And if you're looking at ARPA funds to spend at county, maybe you should look at Saugatuck Township because of this. But unless you have to do more than just say it, you should almost write it down so that when it comes to the topics that come back to the commissioners who are the funding source of it, can go, wait a minute, Saugatuck said this. It's not a verbal thing that the board could hear, and I'm sure they'll run on it. I'm sure they'll care. I'm just saying it'd be important for you to have it in writing so that I can fight for you to say, no, this document says this. They have the same needs as what you're describing over here. And they have this idea, which might be a new idea to us for how to do broadband, how to do water, a better way to do it. And it'd just be a great thing to not miss the chance because they want to get that money spent. And there is a timeline on the money too, as far as how long it's there. Just some other things that we're doing. We've been trying to implement this new thought of process for long-term planning. So we have a 5-year operational budget. We have a 15 to 20-year capital budget. And in the past, we've done it where I'll say with a group of commissioners and say, boy, I think this is the best idea, how we should spend our money for this operational function. Well, maybe that's not what my community wants. I might talk to 10 guys in the coffee shop, but that's not really saying much. So we've been doing community surveys. Ottawa County started it, and they've been trying to take what the people know of what the needs are and really run off what we do through the community survey more than what Dean Kappiga says. To say, wait a second, this lines up with what the community is saying. So we're on a 3-year, every 3 years, we're gonna do a community survey. From that, we're gonna go and say, well, what does the community say are the needs, true needs of, do they want fire? Do they want police? Do they want this or whatever it might be? And let's align our 5-year operational functions planning, our 15 to 20-year capital planning within the survey that's there. So we're gonna, tomorrow, we're gonna try to do a newsletter. You guys do a newsletter for your group? Yes, or something like that?
Kind of.
We're gonna try to do that so that people are more informed as far as what's going on. We've never done that. So I'm asking for that to be done ahead of the survey to say, hey, these are what we're doing already better. We could do it better in many ways, but then try to look at that survey to do our planning. And just one last thing, sorry it takes so long. Our courthouse entrance is done. If you haven't been there, we put cells on top for the courtrooms on top. We added cells because it wasn't enough, more cells on the bottom. The Sally Port where the cruisers can come in now with a prisoner. And then the front entrance is much more safer, much easier for people to come in on that. Then just lastly, you guys use Westside Park like I do too. We're gonna try to fix that yet. We have a grant that we're applying for to get those steps fixed and do it right. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan.
Thank you.
You
May
bet.
I
Yeah.
ask a question?
Yes,
Okay, so back to the very beginning.
yes.
You're like me, you're a fast talker. I love
Sorry.
it. No, don't apologize. I like it. You mentioned a meeting tomorrow?
Well, I thought it was on the 18th really, but I don't have the
Is that
exact
with
dates.
this, the Allegan Broadband Group
It is.
that Jill
The
is?
broadband group is supposed to get hold of all the
Because we
townships, have a
haven't
meeting with
heard
the
about
townships.
I
Yeah,
have heard about it.
you have, I have not, and I'm very passionate
Did you
about
know?
this.
From Jill Dunham.
Yeah, I have not.
We knew about Jill, but not a meeting.
Jill set up a meeting with the townships and the date's been set.
Has she invited Saugatuck Township?
Cindy, do you know?
I don't know if she's
Okay,
sent an
make sure you
invitation or
ask.
not.
She knows all of us. I mean, I know her. like-
Yeah.
And she'll want to support, she'll want to try to be
yeah,
a voice for you, but I want to be a voice for you too.
No,
It works out better if it's
Yeah.
written so that I can fight for that.
okay.
Yeah, I think you have some support from at least some of our board members for
Great.
that, so.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
thanks.
Thank you.
See you.
Is there anybody else that would like to make a public comment? Please state your name and your address.
Hi, I'm Joey Andrews. I'm also running for the 38th district, so you guys get a 2-for-1 tonight. I'm from St. Joseph, lived there for 20 years, and my family's been in Southwest Michigan for more than 5 generations. So the issues that we face here are in my blood, so to speak. I work as an attorney and policy analyst for the Michigan AFL-CIO, where we focus on, at least on my end, on local municipal policies to help our municipalities pass pro-worker policies, and also in our cases fight back against a lot of the development that's happening in our areas, reclaim a lot of the benefits for our residents and communities, many of which have been promised and not delivered. Previously, I've worked as an organizer and regional field director for the Biden and Peters campaign. And prior to my last state house run in 2018 in the old 79th district, I also was a small business owner in the solar industry, did solar installations around the region. The reason I love this new district and was excited to run for it again is because for the first time ever, our coastal communities are united. Previously, all along the lakeshore, the communities of Saugatuck, South Haven, St. Joe Benton Harbor, and New Buffalo have been divided among different House seats, which means that we never really received the representation that our communities really deserve. And the thing about this new district that's just wonderful is the issues that you all are facing up here are the issues that we face in St. Joe, or the issues that New Buffalo is facing and that South Haven is facing. So our campaign is focused on tackling those issues, which include fighting back against the rising water levels, lakeshore erosion, upgrading our critical infrastructure to be able to handle what is increasingly rising water table from the lake and the rivers. This involves things also like getting commercial designations for our harbors to make sure that we get those federal dollars to shore up our shores, so to speak. Also fighting back against the short-term rental crisis that's affecting all of our communities. This I think is probably the #1 issue along the whole lakeshore right now, is that our communities are just being gutted by these developers coming in, buying up all the property, dividing our neighborhoods. And I want to make sure that we not only keep local control, but also find a way in Lansing to create more tools in the toolbox to help our communities address what is just a growing and probably not ceasing problem. And then finally, rebalancing the scales and creating a more sustainable local economy. Tourism has been good for our communities in a lot of ways, but it is not a way to build a middle-class life for families and residents. It doesn't bring my friends back to the area for jobs, and it doesn't help people raise their families here in a way that they used to, a way that I was raised when I was a kid here. And so to me, that involves bringing back the trades to the schools, getting the kids involved in becoming plumbers, electricians, carpenters, let them not only participate in rebuilding and improving their communities, but also give them that middle-class life. that the trades provide without necessarily taking on all the debt that going to school involves, something that I'm very familiar with. So really excited to be here tonight and to meet all of you. Would love to get a chance to grab coffee with any of you at any time, and look forward to being a partner in Lansing.
One more minute.
Sure, I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment at this time? I'm not seeing it. Are you seeing anybody, Jennifer? No? Last call, public comment? Okay, we'll close the public comment section of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda. Everybody's had a chance to look at the consent agenda, read it. Is there somebody who would like to make a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
I'll support.
Marcy? Here we have motion and support. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Then we have a presentation of the proposed Wiley Road Special Assessment District. Somebody here to speak to that.
I am.
Please step up, state your name and address.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm John Castro. My partner and I, Julia Nevey, is not here. I think she may be on the Zoom meeting. We're new property owners along Wiley Road, just down the street from Dannenberg, actually. So thank you for this opportunity to give you an introduction to the proposed Wiley Road Water Main Special Assessment District. It's a mouthful, so SAD. I'll try to be a little short about that. I'm going to cover the location of this proposed water main, the timeline and history, and then the SAD participants. Slide, please. So on the screen, you can see the proposed water main is in dark green. It goes from Lakeshore Drive to just a little west of the Community Church of Douglas. And let's see, it's about 2,100 feet of a 12-inch water main is the proposed water main. Dana will cover the technical and financial aspects. And then the reason we're bringing this up is because the number of the north frontage parcels and then one of the south frontage parcels, one is for sale and one is about to change owners. So the north frontage ones recently changed owners at the end of 2020. Slide. So this is a lot of text. I have hard copies if anyone wants it, and people can review it. And I think Daniel gave maybe a presentation on this previously, so won't cover everything. But back in 1992, there was a water main and sewer line that were extended on Wiley Road around the time that CCD and Summer Grove were built. 2012 was the last time it was extended, and that was funded by private owners on Wiley Road, and a system was recommended at the time but not required, and that is the existing water main on the east. So at the end of 2020, as I mentioned, there's a number of parcels that changed ownership, including the one that my partner and I purchased, and those new owners on the north frontage contacted the township to seek extending of the water main. And then later that year, the township responded that no further extensions would be allowed unless the system was looped. So just basically there's two dead end water mains. And so this was a good opportunity for the township to see a benefit of a system loop. So going to the following year, those new owners established an escrow account for the delineation of what a SAD would look like and what those assessments would look like. And then in August, the township issued that memo for the proposed SAD map and estimated assessments. And so since then, those new property owners have been circulating the petition for Michigan Public Act 188 to gain support for that proposed SAD. And then that also included working with the Community Church of Douglas to gain their support and basically cover their 2 connections per the proposed map that Dan put together. And then also at the end of 2021, the township received correspondence from the west south frontage parcel, the one closest to the lake, from that parcel owner's attorney with concerns over the proposed SAD. And then going to this year, now, one of the north frontage parcel owners, one of the north frontage parcels changed owners, and those new owners stated support for the SAD, so that's good. And then now the Community Church of Douglas parcel is also about to change ownership to Lakeside Pastures LLC. And then lastly, most recently, just a couple of weeks ago, the west south frontage owner via their attorney did state a willingness to participate in the SAD with certain conditions. So that brings us to our current situation. And this is obviously just an introduction to you all and to the community, what we're trying to do on Wiley Road for the water main. I just wanted to introduce you a little bit to give some faces to names of what the SAD participants. So I did talk to, there's an existing house, the 2 smallest parcels on the west, on the north side, that's Norma Green and her daughter Julie. There's a house on one, vacant land on the other. I delivered SAD documents to them and I've not been in contact with them. They have not contacted me about it since then. And then all the rest of the parcels are the ones that changed ownership recently. And so that is the Bradley family, Mark Daly, who's in Chicago, Julia and myself are also in Chicago. And then Cal and Eric are in the Detroit area. And then on the south side, you can see the Winston parcel is the one on the west, the larger one. You can see the full extent is in the orange. They recently sold their house on Lakeshore Drive. And then the one on the east is the one being purchased from the Community Church of Douglas. That is being purchased by Lakeside Pastures LLC.
Do you happen to know what Lakeside Pastures plans are for that property?
They have not stated in discussions with the church. I guess so. Ken Filippini is the main point of contact for Lakeside Pastures. He's stated that, and even the church has stated that they're been longtime friends. And I know the church has been looking to sell their parcels for a while, and they wanted to make sure that it was going to go to a buyer that aligned with what they would like to do with their parcels. So
You mean keeping the trails?
I'm not sure.
I haven't seen that sale go through yet.
End of this month is the expected
Okay.
closing for that. So
And then, I'm sorry, and then your property, is it under Julia's name?
it is under Julia's name.
Okay.
Yes.
And how recently did you guys purchase that?
That was the end of September, October 2020, I believe it was.
Oh, it's been that long, okay,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we've been in this
Alright.
process for
because your name wasn't coming up in our
No,
tax
no,
base, so, okay,
yeah, just Julia.
just
She's the
checking.
lucky one.
Okay,
And then for the 0 Wiley Road address, it's Andrea Wells is the one that comes up under that one. That's the Bradley family. So, but I think, so some of the names, there's either 2 names or 1 name.
sure.
So
No.
for the properties.
So in all, how many parcels potentially are involved here?
There were 19 connections. There's 1, 2, hang on, let's see, 1, 2. Nine parcels in total.
Just 9, okay.
9. The original proposed SAD had 19 connections amongst those 9. With the Winston property having 9 connections, and thus the concerns about the proposed SAD.
So the current 9 does not include any of the former Winston properties or?
The parts, so. go
I can
ahead.
explain some of
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, so the 9 parcels, obviously different owners. Julie and I actually have 2 of those 9.
So you have 2?
Yeah. But amongst those 9 parcels, there's 19 water connections distributed differently, which Dan will get
Okay.
into, yes.
And of the 9, do we know for sure what percentage are absolutely in support of this?
Yes, In terms of the 9 parcels, there are, I guess, only 3, well, only 2 that have not said they have not responded.
Okay,
So the
so
green,
7 have responded favorably and 2
Yes.
have not answered. Okay.
Winston's have responded with conditions. So
Right, no, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
the Greens have not responded at all. Everyone else is in favor.
And what's the status of the petition you mentioned?
We are waiting for the Lakeside Pastures to close and we would be able to get their signature. That's based on the originally proposed SAD. So I have everybody's signature that supports it. So basically all the north frontage owners except for the Greens.
And I know you said this, but who does that petition then go to?
It would go to you.
It is, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought, but I thought you said something else,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we've heard from others except the Winstons
Right,
directly.
right. I've been gathering signatures for the last, since August of last year or so.
Okay,
And then the changing of ownership, negotiating with the Community Church of Douglas has extended the
Yeah.
process of collecting signatures. So once Lakeside Pastures closes on the church property, I think I would come back up here and get a signature. and
okay.
Turn that in.
Yeah, because I hadn't heard about that sale tonight,
Okay. That,
the Lake Shore Pastures.
yes, they put me in touch with Ken Filippini maybe about 2 months ago. So,
And I'm sorry, Ken's?
so Ken is
the church?
the main point of contact from Lakeside Pastures.
Okay, with the buying group.
The buying group, yes, yes. Yeah, I've been discussing with Bill Leesmer, Bill Winter, Mike Mora, all from the Community Church of Douglas
Okay.
previously. So. I see the next slide. This is just a picture from one of the Zoom calls. Griffin,
Griffin,
I
yeah.
think you guys all know. So he was the one we were all dealing with initially.
Right.
There's me in the middle. Jill Winston is actually on the upper right. I
Yeah.
think this is the last time we actually talked with her via Zoom call or any phone call, or even via email. Further communications have been through her attorney. Buzz and Christina, who actually own a home in Douglas, they were going to build a new home on Wiley Road, but they ended up selling to the Bradley family. Mark Dealey is in the middle, and then Cal and Eric are on the bottom right. So there's a cast of characters that we've gotten to know each other very well over the last year or so. So I just wanted to provide some quotes from each of the families, or from the SAD participants. So from the Bradley family, our family discovered this area 3 years ago and fell in love with the town and its people. We purchased a home shortly after in Saugatuck and are now looking to build our dream home on Wiley Road. Thank you for the consideration on this. Mark Dealey, I'm so happy to have had the means and opportunity to purchase a parcel of land in Saugatuck. I look forward to being able to someday build a residence of my own on the land. The SAD will make this possible and allow me to experience everything Saugatuck has to offer. Cal Schwartz and Eric Yoder. There are direct neighbors in between Dana and our property. And so you've actually, if you've been on Wiley Road, you'll see that they have a greenhouse and got a shed back there. Yeah, so they plan on having extensive gardens and landscaping on their yard. And so they actually had a well drilled on their parcel to be used primarily for irrigation, possibly a future pool, but plan on having the municipal water for their home. Some background, we were all told that test wells, and given the test well results, that there was no water on these parcels. And so thus the municipal water seemed like the primary means of getting water and to build a house. So we were all a little bit surprised that they were able to get water. And despite them getting water on their property, everyone is still on board with supporting the SAD to get municipal water. So
Did they have the water tested by chance?
they're
The
still in
quality?
process, yeah. But for irrigation, they're
Right.
hopefully, I mean, they seem to be very involved with their gardening and orchids, and it'll be a sight to behold, I'm sure. So their quote is, we are still on board for city water. We support it and want city water for the house. Here's Julia and myself in front of Killins in Saugatuck. We plan on building a home to eventually relocate here to Saugatuck in the future. We grew up coming here with our families to Saugatuck from Chicago area. We love this area, so many things to do. And in general, we prefer municipal water for the home and don't want to deal with the issues common to well water. Additionally, the water main will benefit all existing water main users, so it's a win for everyone.
So what are the main issues you have with well,
Well water, I guess typically, you can deal with odors. I mean, there's ways to mitigate well water, depending on the quality of it. There's sulfur, which is the X smell. It could be hard, it could be soft, and so we would just prefer to have all that treatment done by the city to get,
well, it's not the city, but
yeah.
most of us are on wells in the township.
I understand. I just know that previous times we've come up here and had been in a place that had well water. We've actually bought separate water jugs for so not for me to wash
Wow.
my hair, but
Because my experience is the municipal water has all the iron in it, you have to get softeners and all, so I'm just saying.
it's I guess I'm hoping that the municipal water is high quality, so
You might try a well, I
We'll talk-
recommend a well.
we'll talk to Dana about that.
Yeah, okay. Dana knows both sides.
The last quote, lastly, from Lakeside Pastures LLC, Ken Filippini. We support the SAD along Wiley Road. We believe it will be a meaningful improvement for all of the property owners and will provide us with the necessary municipal services as we consider the use for our property. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So I was asked to come and kind of follow up and introduce the idea a little bit here behind the SAD. So Dana Bird is township engineer. We started working on this with Griffin back at the end of 2020. John, I think, contacted Griffin and said, hey, we bought these properties, there's water near us, what's it take to connect to that? And so then Griffin called me and we kind of started talking from there. Laid out a lot of options, but I think it's coming to you tonight because I've talked with Griffin and Joe and Daniel. We've sat down with the attorney to talk about a lot of different options related to this. And we set the property owners in a direction of an SAD because that seemed like their most likely avenue to be able to extend the water system there and then be able to connect to it. When I built my house 10 years ago, Phil Quaddy at the time had told me that you can't really drill a well out there. I myself have never dug into the data or talked to the county or well drillers about that, but I've heard it from multiple sources, so I was kind of surprised to hear that. I'll be curious to see if they get it all permitted and everything passes, but something about the clay and the depth of the clay out there, I think, makes getting productive wells difficult. So so John has been super patient and very engaged with trying to circulate this petition. So through the Public Act process, property owners can petition, and then if they get signatures, they can present that to the board, and then the board can still make whatever decision you want. But we had directed John to say, hey, get this petition filled out, gauge your level of support before it comes to the board, so that you all can be aware of, hey, is this just a couple people who want it, or do the majority of the people want it? And so they had set up an escrow account to cover those initial costs, so that when people are signing up for something, they kind of have some idea of what they're signing up for. So we had laid out that district. I don't know if you want to put that back up from John's presentation. And the whole basis for the special assessment district is you have to allocate benefit evenly among all the parcels. There's lots of different ways you can do it. You can do it per parcel, you can do it per frontage. There's lots of different methods you can use. And so working with the township's attorney, the assessor, and myself, we laid out what was in green on that picture as the proposed methodology. And it was based on not just the number of parcels, but if the parcels were divided just with a land division, what would make sense in terms of the number of connections that people could easily obtain to allocate benefit among those parcels. So so we wrote a memo based on that. And then John circulated that among the property owners and gained the majority, I think, support. I think he has over 51% support, even without the Winston parcel. But then the township did receive a letter from the Winston's attorney, kind of contesting how we had set up the benefit of that. And kind of arguing some of the points of the Land Division Act and things like that. And so when I worked with Griffin and then Joe on that, we said, well, let's go back to John and say, hey, from a practical standpoint, like, see what you can work out with the property owners. Rather than charging ahead without the support of a major landowner in the district, why don't we talk to them and find out kind of what their thoughts are on that? And so I think just recently we got some correspondence back from them. Daniel and I had a call with their attorney, and they were proposing a reduced number of connections based on their points on the Land Division Act. So we could probably spend a lot of time arguing the Land Division Act and still not get anywhere. So I think that's where we were at a point that we wanted to kind of introduce this to the board so that you all could consider kind of what level of engagement or discussion or consideration, so that when we follow up, eventually this could lead to a petition being submitted to you that either is based on that methodology or a methodology that more people could agree on. And what the Winston's had proposed is a reduced number of connections, so it would raise, it would lower the connections from 19 down to 13. And then the cost per connection would go up for each parcel. So effectively, it reduces the south side, the number of assessments to the south side, and increases that on the north side. And then they were in favor of their entire parcel becoming part of the assessment district instead of what we had proposed as truncating it off. So that opens up some options, certainly, for how this could all proceed. The township is not committed to a methodology one way or the other at this point. The petition, we provided that as information. The actual assessment district could look different. Typically, if property owners petition, they don't do all this upfront work to say how would it look. And so, but they've kind of funded some of that initial discussion. So at this point, I think if the entire parcels were included on the south side, that gives the possibility to recapture some cost from future connections within those parcels. So like, for example, if some of those parcels were to develop and they wanted to extend the water further to serve those parcels, and maybe if they did a site condo or just more land divisions, then those could be assessed at a higher cost, allowing some of the recapture of those funds. So that's kind of where things are at. People are signing up for supportive water, assuming that it's about $24,000 a connection. At a reduced number, it would be about $36,000 per connection. So I have no idea what the property owners think in the district of that. If that's something they would still support on that level, they could certainly discuss that and figure out where everybody's at. There's options where the township could voluntarily contribute to help offset the cost and put in a mechanism to recapture whatever that investment is. I will say one of our initial conversations with John, he's incredibly polite and patient, but they took the news that when we told them they had to loop the main very well. Because originally I think they just wanted to extend it about 400, 500 feet. Because there were only a few parcel owners there that wanted it extended. And the town, we basically looked at it from an engineering standpoint and said there's no system benefit to allowing that to happen further. And if it only extended that further, everyone would argue that there's a main there and we ought to be able to connect to it. So, but again, so that was a requirement that the township imposed on all of them, is to say, hey, if it's good, no more extensions, if it's gonna go, it's gonna get looped.
Yeah.
Because that does provide a whole system benefit to Lakeshore Drive, the rest of Wiley. And so that's a requirement that we put on this from the beginning. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about any of this.
Do you know I know they had trouble with the fire
down that road before. And do you expect if they did loop that it would increase it
Oh, yeah.
substantially, I would assume, right?
Yeah, the water main that runs down Lakeshore Drive is kind of a cobbled piece of pipe, so it's various diameters, but looping it, yeah, was.
Is that a borage main at the end there?
There's pieces, yeah, that are 4, there's pieces that are 8. So it's a variety of sizes as it goes up and down Lakeshore.
So would we,
But without a doubt, yeah,
Okay.
it would provide
So
a much higher level of fire
typically
protection.
when you do a 12-inch, I mean, you're gonna have to connect it. Would you increase the other mains when you do that? Is that how you?
Well, we would find out what the main is at the end and reduce it down to match that size.
Oh,
And I
okay.
think we would also look at, in the design of it, is there a point where the 12 would reduce in size just because a 12 would be extended with the idea that those parcels would probably develop in the future and want extensions.
Okay.
So at some point, as you get close to the edge of Lakeshore where it ties in, it would reduce down
Oh,
in size there.
So Dana, at this point, the potential SAD being introduced to us tonight does not include any of the Winston property. Is that true?
No, it includes a truncated portion of that. And I think you don't have any decisions to make tonight.
No, I know, I'm
Okay.
just trying to
It's
learn
just
more.
Discussion and information. So yeah, the Winston's parcel.
So some of the green on the south there is,
Yeah, so everything over from here over is the Winston parcel. It's like over 40 acres.
so the truncated is the green.
The truncated part is the green, which is what we proposed as 9 equivalent connections across that frontage. Of which, they're proposing 4. And then the community church parcel is here, which would have 2, and I think they're probably proposing that as 1. Per this land division question that's being tossed around, so.
And Mr. Castro mentioned that the Winstons had sold their house on Lakeshore Drive, but they had not sold the vacant property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, that's my understanding too.
Thanks.
So as an engineer, do you think that Cal Lake has the capacity for this additional water?
Yeah, I don't think capacity is an issue there.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the benefit would be the looping?
Yeah, the benefit is the system loop, which creates better circulation of water and quality of water, avoids 2 dead end mains that are quite long. And then also the improved fire protection service.
Any downside that you see from an engineering point of view?
I don't, from an engineering perspective, I mean, system loops are very beneficial. This is a main road in the township with a high likelihood that there'll be extensions off the main in the future. So I don't see negative reasons to not, allow it. The question of whether or not the township has the ability to contribute or how they want to have the process is really up to, township leadership and available funding.
And this is proposed as a 10-year?
We haven't really set a time frame on it. We haven't engaged really with financial folks. And we may have laid out a 10-year schedule back in
August of 2020.
the 2020. Did we send that out? Okay. Yeah, so it's probably 10-year. Yeah.
Okay, that's all my questions. You good? You good?
Dana, I had one quick question for you. So the conditions of the Winstons and going down to 4 connections would also be to include their entire parcel in an SAD, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, having completed the presentation, we can move on to new business. And this is the appointment to the planning commission. I see we have Mr. Butler here. Would you like to make a few comments about why you would like to be on the planning commission?
Thank you. Once again, I feel like I did this once already. It's going really well with the Parks and Rec Commission. And we had a couple lectures from Becky Israel, who expressed to me that I could be on 2 commissions. And I said, I could double the fund. I said, I can't wait. So I submitted my application. I didn't not jump up during your consent agenda, but I will say that Chairman Searing and I went over to Mulligan, Michigan yesterday and personally went through the factory where they're making the bench. And they told us it would be approximately an August delivery date. And I grumbled. Nice way of putting it. And they think that at least the first bench will be delivered approximately April 27th. And that's the one that we're intending to bring up here as an example of the new improved benches. Anyway, as I indicated before, I've been involved with municipal politics for, I guess is now technically my 37th year. I'm a past council member, mayor pro tem, and I look forward to the challenges of the planning commission. I participated in the Coastal Alliance lecture.
You mean Coastal Leadership Academy?
Yeah, coastal.
Coastal Alliance is very different.
Coast, water, erosion,
Very different.
which right now we don't have because the water level is down about 18 inches.
That's right. We're
So,
good.
but stay tuned because that's the great thing about Michigan. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to serve on both commissions.
My question usually is, are you committed to attend all the meetings? And you've demonstrated that through your Parks Commission that you will participate in all the meetings and won't be gone for 6 months out of the year.
No,
Okay.
that won't happen. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Butler?
I think I do. I think I know the answer since you've come to meetings that even you don't have to come to, like our workshop, and you show up and are very engaged in wanting to learn more. And have you taken the citizen planner, or would you be willing to look at that, the citizen planner course training through MSU?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that because I know there are 8 standards that the planning commission has to review for each development. And a seminar as to the proper way of approaching those and balancing those issues out would be much appreciated.
Thank you.
So in your time in New Baltimore, excuse me, can you talk about any of the interaction or maybe projects that you had to deal with their planning commission?
The only time, generally, the council would always follow what the planning commission did. And in the 36 years I was there was only one time where they diverged because the planning commission had gone in one direction, the zoning board of appeal went in another direction, and something had to give. Generally, those groups don't diverge quite like that, but it was a very unusual parcel with some unusual waterfront features. But a lot of things can be done at the planning commission level when developments come, as far as making sure that there is access to neighboring properties. So if a corridor needs to be left here, so we have access to a trail or a sidewalk system, you know, that's one of those things that if you're talking with a developer, when they're first there, that's a lot easier than after it gets to you and it's already been through planning. Those are the things you try to look forward to. I also attended Dana's lecture yesterday, talking about the history of your water and sewer system. And he has never sounded finer. He was a great presentation and actually kept me mostly interested for 2 hours. It was quite good and I highly recommend it. But I'm aware of the challenges that come up, and it's also where large developments and large developers will be seeking certain things. And my goal has always been, is it good for the township residents? I'm not necessarily enamored by the fact that you want to put in another 50 homes. Because that's not, we're not in this for the money, we're in this for the quality of the privilege of living here, which is why most of us moved here. That's always been my
Mhm.
focal point.
Okay. Yeah, and to that point you brought up in New Baltimore, planning commission is an advisory commission. They're not a governing board.
Correct.
They make recommendations to the board and the board can accept them. They can change it, reject it. I mean, it's,
Or it could,
Yeah.
it could be sent back, but.
or they can just change it themselves.
True.
Yeah. Which is, it doesn't happen often, but it can.
It can.
So from where you're sitting, and I know you've been so active and you've been here for a while, what comes to your mind as some major challenges that you think the planning commission will be facing in the next year or two?
I think we have to look at what we allow people to do on Lake Michigan as far if the water level comes back up. There is a community south of here, the name of which escapes me at the moment, but they basically barred any further steel seawall and or boulders being placed on Lake Michigan. Because if Lake Michigan doesn't like it, it's gonna move it anyway.
How are they able to do that? Because
They-
that's state regulated.
They adopted an ordinance for the township that controls what their property owners on Lake Michigan can do. And I was, one of the things I'll discuss if I am appointed with the planning commission is that, do we want to look at this? Because if you walk along the beach, there are certain homes that have had either groins or steel baskets or seawalls that are now all askew. They're a hazard to walk on the beach now because what they put in wasn't strong
They should
enough.
have to move them when the water recedes.
Well.
But I thought that was totally an Eagles purview. So I'd be interested to learn more about that because
Okay.
it's been an issue, obviously been an issue here in the township. Most of Lake Shore is in Saugatuck Township.
It is.
Some's in Douglas.
And you have
Just very
also,
little.
It's all the park and maybe a house, yeah.
It's the dune grass development.
Well, that's been an issue too.
Any more questions for Mr. Butler? Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Is Mr. Gordon Stannis here?
So I wasn't aware that I would be addressing you today, so I have no prepared comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I think if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure.
And then we can ask some questions and same questions we asked Mr. Butler.
Okay.
Why do you want to be on the planning commission? What do you think the problems are and are you available?
So let's start with my history in Saugatuck. I've lived here for 13 years. I've designed and built a home on Silver Lake, and I'm also the president of our plan unit development. So we have 12 homes and an association. Had a unique situation where we put in roads, we put in water, we put in gas, we put in data and power. And we had neighbors that didn't have access to those things, and we give it to them for free. And we asked them to, if they want to use our roads, you're going to pay the same amount of money for these roads that we pay for, our in and out roads, their drives and not actual roads. So every year I collect checks from people outside of our PUD to maintain our roads, and I feel like we're a little miniature city over at River's Edge. But my background is in problem solving. So my degree is in industrial design, and so I work with large companies. 2 hours ago, I was on the phone with the 26th largest company in North America, and small startups. And we help them solve problems and provide product design services, service design, and experience design services for companies all over the country. So that's my day job, and I'm very busy. And I don't commit to something without understanding exactly what I'm committing to. So I spoke to someone today on the phone about the requirements for this position, and I can do that. I'm 1 year off of the school board So I was a school board trustee
That's
for
where I know
9
you.
years.
I knew you from something.
That was a pretty significant commitment, and I took on a special project on the school board, and that was the vote that finally passed on try number 3 to upgrade our schools. So a lot of people put in a lot of work to get that over the finish line. The team I led was at the watershed of that work. And so someone earlier mentioned doing stakeholder interviews. We interviewed 10 first graders, 10 third graders, 10 fifth graders, 10 7th graders, 10 9th graders, 10 11th graders, 20 faculty and staff, over 100 residents who don't have children in the school system. And then about 50 parents who had children in the school system. And the whole purpose for doing this was to understand what people wanted and what the priority was. So everybody wants everything, but we needed help understanding, well, you can't have everything. We can have some things. And we collected data, and that's what we used to go to the board and make recommendations. And that's what has turned into the changes that you're going to see in the local schools. So that was a pretty big project. That was the largest pro bono project I've done in my entire life. It went on for a year and a half. And it's worth it. Right?
I was interviewed by you, I think. for
Really?
that. Yeah, I was in on that.
I've been a trustee at the Boys and Girls Club in Holland for 8 years. And some of you may have heard of the Mount Bald Head Challenge. That's a race that when I was younger, I used to really enjoy running it. And then I watched it sort of degrade and fizzle over time. And so I volunteered to join as a race director. And we've doubled participation in the past 5 years. And not only that, it's not just a great community event. What I brought to the table was transforming it into a great community event with a cause. So all of the money goes toward the Boys and Girls Club, which opened recently this past summer, late because of COVID, but it opened this past summer in Douglas Elementary. We were hoping for 50 families to engage, and we, I think, ended up with 168 families who engaged. So the need is clear. And there was a time when people questioned the need. After helping design 2 Boys and Girls Clubs in Holland and seeing that they turn kids away because they're always full, we know there's a need. There's 3 in Holland. We opened one in Grand Rapids as well, and now we have one in Saugatuck. And we're going to grow it from the elementary school into the middle school and into the high school. And there's a lot of kids that need service, and our next goal is to reach into Fenville as well. So I'm not really in the public's eye on a lot of this stuff. I do a lot of fun things that I believe in that are kind of subterranean. And the Rotary president does all the hard work and has to stand in front of the microphone, and I just help them out. Happy to answer any questions.
Does everybody have
And I'm
any,
here with my wife, Kirsten.
and you support this?
Very still up. It's the final vote that matters.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Stannis? Training, you would be willing to do a little bit of training?
I'm open to the idea of continuous learning. It's kind of a hobby, but it'd be hard for me to devote myself to a once a week class traveling. I'd have to understand the scope of it.
Some of the training's just one day at a time.
Is it? Okay, 1 day modules.
There's different types of training.
Different types, yeah.
Okay.
So you've been here 13 years. I'm just curious, in the 13 years you've been here and or the years ahead of you, what stands out to you as a particular challenge for the Planning Commission?
Well, I overheard some of the conversation about what's happening on the waterfront, and we walk the waterfront probably more than most people. We were there last night, and yeah, we were watching some pretty strange things happening there over the past couple of years, and it seemed like it was a runaway train. It seemed like people could do whatever they wanted to do, and they don't own that land. They didn't own all the land they were claiming, so I see that as a challenge for sure. And I'm amazed that another township passed an ordinance Because typically waterfront property owners are the most powerful and vocal and influential property owners. So I'd love to hear the backstory on how that was achieved. As far as other challenges, honestly, I don't have a lot of insight. I would have to listen and learn. I mean, I knew we had challenges with our schools. I knew we had challenges with our youth that are less visible, put it that way. That's why it took a little while to kind of rally the troops that there is a need for a Boys and Girls Club. The kids we're talking about they're not walking around downtown. They're not climbing around on fancy boats downtown. They're somewhere else and you're not seeing them, but they exist.
You have children in the school system?
I did. I have a kid that's graduating college in 2 months,
Oh,
finally, and then another one that's a year behind.
okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Stannis? Pretty good?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, we have two very good applicants, and we only have one open position. But that doesn't mean that there won't be other opportunities to apply to be on either the planning commission or our other committees and boards and commissions that we have. So,
You want any comment before you?
yes, please.
Yes. Both of these candidates. It's a wonderful problem to have when such good people want to volunteer for these things, and this is a big one. So I don't know Kevin as well, but everything he's done has been wonderful. And I will say that I do know Gordon because he's in our neighborhood, kind of. We're not in the little city that he owns or operates. Chancellor?
I'm the custodian.
Custodian, right. And I can truly speak to his character. And the tremendous amount that he's done. So I know I'm not helping you, but I just thought since I know him, I would speak to that. And yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stacy, do you have anything to add or?
They're
or
both
comment?
such great candidates. I
know.
don't think we can go wrong with either one. We can flip a coin. No, I don't know. It's our decision.
John, as liaison to the
Yes,
planning
I'm the board
commission?
member on the planning commission. I echo what everyone said. I mean, I did say to Gordon, right, earlier, that typically we get the applications by the deadline. Because unlike the other appointments the board makes, planning commission by state law, the appointment is made by the supervisor and then we vote to accept it or not. The other appointments we make, it's just open voting. So this is a bit awkward because no one's been able to discuss the two candidates with the supervisor because of the submission process. I just wanted to explain that to the audience. And since we can't discuss it more directly, do the right thing.
I'll do the right.
And I.
No pressure. Yeah, no pressure.
Mr. Stannis did an excellent presentation. Some of us know him or know of him. Ken has been incredible, filling an opening on the Parks Commission, which is elected, so he'll be running for re-election soon. And I've worked a lot with him on parks issues and other broad issues, and I'm so impressed with his intellect and his passion and nothing but good things to say about either of them, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to make, you want.
Right.
All right, really quickly, both of the candidates share a lot of the same incredible qualities. So I'm just gonna talk about the highlights that kind of set both of them apart, and I don't envy your decision right now. Mr. Butler's municipal background and legal background is impressive. also that you just jumped right in as soon as you showed up here in Saugatuck Township and got involved and are really just learning every aspect of all things township. It's really incredible. And Mr. Stannis, I appreciate your professional background and your community involvement. And I think it lends a real unique perspective that we don't always get around here of a younger families and a youth perspective in the township. We, you know, often the people that serve on these boards are retired, and that's great. They have the time and energy to devote to give back, but you have been so involved recently with families and children, and, you know, so both of you are incredible, and I hope to see more of you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make an appointment, and you all have to vote to
Right.
agree or not agree. So I'll flip the coin and you can tell if I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to appoint Mr. Butler to the Planning Commission because not only of his experience with the Parks Commission, his availability and his dedication. And I want to encourage Mr. Stannis to stay tuned because openings come up on our boards and commissions with some regularity. And since you've given us such a great free interview for such a position, I would certainly look to filling a new position that comes available with you. So.
So is that a motion?
No, that's an appointment.
That's the appointment, that's
then
right.
you don't
Okay,
need it.
that's right, that's
We,
right.
we vote to
Then you vote
accept or
to
not.
accept it or
I
not.
should know this by now. How many? I thought we don't have to sign it.
Somebody has to make a motion and then a second.
Oh.
To accept my appointment.
To support or not the appointment.
I'll move to approve the appointment of Mr. Butler to the Planning Commission to expire June 30, 2023.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Butler and Mr. Sands. We look forward to working with you in the future.
Well, we will have you on file.
And
We know where you,
And
and we know where you
speak out.
live.
And we know.
Okay. Let's watch it for the 66 Water Street.
Yes, so this is coming up again. So I think at the last board meeting, I discussed how we were moving the 66th Street SAD process forward. And we're trying to go as efficiently as possible. So we started the bid process by releasing the RFP at the same time we contacted the county to get permits. So the bidding process is finished. We received all the sealed bids on March 1st. We received 6 bids, one of them coming in the lowest by far, which was Red Line Excavating LLC, coming in at $329,042.64. Dana, did we expect it to come in about 500,000 or?
About 400 for construction.
About 400 for construction, so it's coming in about $70,000 under what was anticipated. Dana does, our township engineer, Mr. Bird, who's in the audience, does feel confident that Red Line Excavating LLC is capable of handling this project successfully. So this is the bid that's before you. There was a slight complication, and I think it's kind of par for the course for the times that we're in, that the material needed to do this project is unavailable until about November, December. This is an industry-wide problem. This is not particular to the company that we're looking at. We were hoping to complete this project by August 30th. That is not going to happen. That is going to be delayed. The one good thing about this is that the pipe can go in right away. So as soon as it arrives, we can put it in. The patchwork won't be able to be completed until the spring, but at least the pipe can go in and the homes in question can receive water November, December time. We felt that we should stick with the material that we had planned. It's possible that we could research alternative material, but it's not quite advisable to be putting a hodgepodge water infrastructure together with mixed match materials for many reasons. And so we're kind of sticking with our guns on that. The managers, myself and the manager of Cal Lake had a conversation about this today, and it was kind of reiterated the importance of having kind of clear standards that you stick with. So we feel strongly that we should wait it out and wait for the proper material. And that the delay is going to be about 4 or 5 months, but again, we can get that material in the ground November, December when it comes, and then we can patch in the spring. Brian Newhoff is recommending that there is that the awarding of this project to Redline is contingent upon the township making successful financial arrangements. The RFP for the bond is going out on Friday, so we're moving along that process. So we feel confident that you can award the project if you so choose with that contingency in place.
In reference to the RFP going out from Baker Tilly.
Yeah.
Do we know what the timing is for receiving?
I'd have to check on that. I believe it's about a month, but I have to go back and check on that timing.
Yeah, I'd just be
I
curious.
think you're right. I think
Yeah.
it's about a month, maybe less.
Yeah.
So a decision on that could be made by mid or end of April. So if all goes smoothly,
We
I
would
know I've
have,
asked this before, but so the special assessment would probably be going on the 2023 tax year.
I believe so, yes. Yes.
And we're entering 2022. I don't know, maybe it'd be ready for, I don't know, Baker Tilly might know more about that time frame, but I'm just curious about that aspect of it.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to look
We
into
can
that,
find
John.
out. Okay.
Any more questions for Mr. DeFranco or for Mr. Byrd?
I just had one thing too, just to clarify, Daniel, I wrote in my letter, the contingency for the successful, I forget how I worded it. But we did get a clarification from the bond attorney that if you do make an award, it should be contingent on the successful sale and delivery of bonds by the township to fund the project,
Okay.
in quotes. So I can provide that wording
You better stay there.
when you need it.
The successful
need it.
delivery.
Sale and
Sales and
delivery.
The successful sale and delivery of bonds by the township to fund
Perfect.
the project.
Okay, any more questions for Mr. DeFranco or Mr. Byrd? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move to award the 66th Street Water Special Assessment District Project to Redline Excavating LLC, contingent upon the township making sales and delivery of bonds by the township to fund the project for the SAB.
Thank you. Is there support?
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Although, can we do this by voice vote? Or is it?
I think
Not a resolution,
so.
it's just a
Okay,
bid selection.
okay, all those in favor?
I-
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Did seem like a important one.
Okay, next on our agenda under new business is the bike trail grant resolution.
So this item is related to the public hearing that we heard today. And essentially it authorizes the township to apply for the Michigan Natural Resources. I want to say land trust.
Trust
a
fund.
trust fund grant. This is specifically related to preservation, and recreation. So it's in conjunction with another grant that the township didn't apply for directly, the TAP grant, the Transportation Alternative Program. The city was able to apply for that grant on behalf of the township. In this case, because the grant is related to land and some of the land in question is owned by the township, we, for certain reasons, for that reason specifically, have to apply for it independently of the city. So the city is applying for the same grant in tandem, but we're applying for it on our own. The specific amount is for $300,000. There's been a lot of back work on this, so we're in a pretty good position to submit the grant by its deadline, which is April 1st. We've kind of seen some of, where they anticipate the trail to be extended. I've received 3 correspondences by email and support. I sent them today. They came too late for the packet. Supervisor Osman also received 4 correspondences, all in support. We heard quite a few public comments in support. So yeah, essentially this would be authorizing a resolution to authorize the township to apply for this Michigan Resources Trust Fund grant. Just to give you an idea, the total project cost on just the township side is $1,078,000 with the TAP grant, with this trust fund grant for $300,000, and with the contribution from the Friends of the Bike Trail, the township is only paying $10,000 of that $1,078,000. So the grant writers, the engineers, all feel very confident about this project. And just kind of another highlight, and I think it often gets overlooked, where the bike trail is going through is technically a township park, a park that the public has never had access to. It's a really kind of beautiful creek ravine. And this trail for the first time would give us access to that park and open it up to, maybe, benches, as Mr. Butler has done a lot of work into, a lot of research into that. It would give us opportunities for maybe educational, signs, just another place where people can go and relax or, recreate. So it's kind of an interesting opportunity to actually utilize a park that, in theory exists, I guess technically does exist, but it's not being, there's no ability of the public to actually access that park. So again, this is specifically for the trust fund grant authorizing us, or it's a resolution authorizing us to apply for that grant. The grant amount is $300,000 and would be part of public and private funds that are funding essentially $1,068,000 of a cost that we're just paying $10,000 for.
Thank you.
Thanks for filling us in on that. And to the point about the park, I don't think Parks Commission knew about this park a year ago.
Can you pronounce it
It is a
again?
mystery.
Amalancher.
Amalancher.
And he can pronounce it too.
It's a
Yes,
plant,
it can.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't that a plant?
It's a plant that they would plant near cemeteries because it's the first plant to come up after the thawing. So they would know that then they could begin to dig the graves.
Oh.
And do we have any in the cemetery?
That's an excellent question. We'd have to ask
That's the
Mr.
sexton
Steering.
or our sexton, our
Yes.
sexton.
Yeah, or the sexton, yeah.
Did you say earlier, the award will be made by the trust fund board? Did we know, did you say when?
The engineer, the grant writer did say when, and I think he said that, August, that we would have a very good idea if we would be awarded that grant. It might be at that time.
They'll give you an idea in August, but you actually get the award in December.
There we go.
It's a Christmas present.
There we go. I like it. Yeah,
And then in terms of if we didn't get it, then we'd be back to
yeah.
a contingency plan.
We would be back to a contingency plan. There is some hope because
Right.
there is a relationship between the TAP grant and the trust fund
Right.
grant. And we have been getting early signals that we are in a very competitive position for that TAP grant, which would indicate that we're in a very good position if we get everything done for the trust fund grant. So we do have early indication that we are in a very good position. And the resolution, we did add that it is contingent upon us securing the other funding. If you actually read the language of the resolution, so this doesn't put us on the hook. So let's say we don't get the grant. Yeah, we're not financially responsible for that $300,000.
Madam Supervisor,
Yes.
as vice chair for the bike trail committee, I would love to make the motion, if that's all right.
That's fine.
I move to approve the adoption of resolution 2022-0-02, a resolution to authorize submission of a Michigan Resources Trust Fund grant.
I'd be proud to support that.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Marcy,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Bigford,
Yes,
Aldrich,
Yes.
Osmond, yes. Motion carries. And our next item up is the bike trail grant resolution. Read the wrong line. Advisory tri-community recycling resolution.
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco.
So I believe this was originally authorized in February 2020. It was first initiated actually by the city of Saugatuck to establish a tri-community committee on recycling. That committee has been in operation since. The charter for that committee did expire December 31st, 2021. I'm on that committee and we've been kind of operating, I guess, illegally, or we've been operating a non-existent committee, but we do have things in the works. We do believe that there is still a need for this committee. One of the things that we accomplished last year was hosting the first household hazardous waste drop-off event in the community, I believe in 13 years. So that was kind of a big deal. But we are still serving a kind of advisory role for the tri-community. Recently, the city of the Village of Douglas asked us to weigh in on a question of what is the Allegan County Resource Recovery Recycling Program. We had that before this board at the prior meeting to determine whether or not we wanted to put language on the ballot in terms of us participating in that program. Douglas had questions about it. The city still has questions about it. There are ongoing conversations in the cities pertaining to their single hauler waste contracts. So we do believe that this committee does still have a role to play. And before you is a resolution to continue the existence of that committee up until December 31st, 2022. So there is a sunset date on this. But the committee itself believes that we still have a role to play. The municipalities are still engaging us in terms of advisory questions. And I do think it's kind of interesting that the initiation of the program or the initiation of the committee, the continuation of the committee, all initiated with the city of Saugatuck. But this is the first time that Saugatuck Township is calling on all three committees and saying, yes, we may possibly want to continue this committee in this tri-community fashion. So I think that's kind of neat.
So neither city has voted on this yet.
No, we are
We're
the first
initiating
ones to do it. They plan to have it on their council agendas. So this resolution has been shared with them, but we are the initiators.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to point out is this wording of the new intergovernmental agreement is that each community can appoint up to 3 representatives. You might remember a year ago, we were asked to increase it to 4, which we did, which seemed like a lot of people. So in this case, 1, 2, or 3 satisfies this new proposal, which I think is a good move.
Yeah. I do too.
question. It sounds like Mr. Epstein is no longer
He resigned.
resigned. Okay. Is Mr. Stewart still interested in serving?
Mr. Stewart is still interested in serving and he's very active.
Okay. And what about the other members from the other communities? Have you kind of gauged their interest in continuing to serve and kind of having, because you guys have had a great amount of energy and, what do you know about that?
Yeah, it's kind of a natural cycle. So the fourth for Douglas has kind of stepped down. And then we believe that there is a member of the city of Saugatuck who was a founding member who plans to step down, and their fourth member is very active and she intends to continue. So we believe that will even out. So Douglas will have 3 representatives, the city will have 3 representatives. We will have 2, but I don't really see it affecting anything that we do. I think that it just kind of reflects who's been active and who's not. And, it does give us the opportunity, if we ever desire to appoint a 3rd person, if someone were to step up and wanted to, be active, there is that opportunity. There is that opportunity.
Good point. Yeah.
We told you there'd be another opportunity. We didn't think it'd be in 10 minutes, but.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Any other questions for Mr. DeFranco? John?
May I make a motion?
Yes, you may.
I'd be pleased to move to approve the adoption of resolution 2022-03, a resolution to extend the advisory tri-community recycling ad hoc committee through 2022 and to reappoint Daniel DeFranco and Patrick Stewart as the township's representatives on the committee.
There's support.
I'll support.
All those in favor, this is a resolution, sorry. I'll call the roll. Helmrich,
Yes.
Aldrich.
Yes.
Bickford,
Yes?
Marcy.
Yes.
Osman, yes, motion carries. And item number 5, closing on potential municipal well site. Mr. DeFranco.
So this is something that you may be familiar with. This was initiated before you all came into office. But the prior administration did sign a license and option agreement with North Shores of Saugatuck LLC, October 4th, 2017, to acquire a 5-acre site for $1, with the understanding that this site could be an excellent future municipal well site. The property is located off of 135th. It's well off the road. Just to give you an understanding or background in this, the property was actually identified independently by the Wellhead Protection Program in conjunction with Cow Lake. They searched high and low for a site for a future municipal well. They searched the south of the township, they searched Douglas, they searched the city of Saugatuck, and they honed in on this particular site. The reason being is that there is no known land contamination in the area. The site is surrounded by critical dune area and forested area. They don't imagine any kind of development that would be disruptive or pose contamination issues in the future. So they identified this site as an excellent future municipal well site. I imagine that was somehow communicated to North Shores of Saugatuck. They offered to sell us this 5-acre property for $1. We did sign this license and option agreement. We did act on that option. So we've actually been out to the site and dug some test wells and did some testing. What we've received back indicates that it is a good well site. There is a kind of upper aquifer and a lower aquifer. That lower aquifer does have, it's a fairly high degree of arsenic and iron, but the upper part is pretty clean. And when you pull that water out from a well, it's only about 10% of that bottom aquifer that ends up in the water. So it's really clean, it's really nice water. And they're estimating that we probably could put about 3 wells there. there might have to be some conversations with Eagle about dropping those 3 wells. But that doesn't seem to be all that particularly challenging. And it's estimated that the site with the 3 active wells could add a water capacity of about 1,500 gallons per minute. And currently, I believe that the water capacity of the township wells is about 1,400 gallons per minute. So it's a substantial addition to our water capacity. We don't have to close on the property until September 22. That's when the agreement at the earliest allows us to do that. There are some conditions in place. So one of the conditions is that North Shore does have the ability to stage soil on the site. They're currently storing some soil. We don't exactly know the origin of that soil. It doesn't look like sand, it looks more like clay. So it's possible it's come from the river. So that's staged there right now. We do have the ability to test any soil that they stage there. They may request that they stage soil there in the future. We don't know that yet. That's part of why we're initiating the process. But we can close as early as September 22. There are some things that we need to do prior to closing. One of those things is notify North Shores that we're intending to close on the property. The other is a phase 1 environmental site assessment. And in your packet, we already received a proposal from Prine and Newhoff to do that. This is something that our engineer is recommending. It's something our lawyer is recommending. We're not foreseeing that the property has any serious contamination, but it's nice to know, because if it did, there would be some liability issues there. So we just want to make sure. We'd also have to obtain a title commitment, title insurance, and obtain an Alta survey study. Again, that was in the proposal from Prine and Newhoff. So those are some of the actions that we have to complete prior to closing. There is a sunset date on closing. So if we don't close by September 2023, the deal is off. So my feeling is that it's best to start earlier than later, just in case we run into any hiccups. Our attorney feels that North Shore is contractually bound to sell us the property. And I believe at the time North Shore was pretty enthusiastic about the opportunity to contribute something to the township. So we're hoping for, a smooth way forward. Right now, even though they're selling it to us for $1, the estimated cost of fully closing on the property is approximately $30,000. Although the initial estimates for some of this work is coming in well below budget. So we're imagining that the actual number is probably going to be around $20,000. So maybe $20,001, something like that.
The state police.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. DeFranco.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions about the wellhead site?
Yeah, I have a couple. So on the cost thing, so the 4 points here with the Alta survey and the environmental, are all 4 of those part of, or just some of those in the 10,500 suggested by Prine and Newhoff?
Just some of them. So I believe it's the Alta survey and the legal description. Now, I did look at the original contract, and there does appear to be some legal description, but I imagine that we want to check that.
Okay, yeah.
And it does include the environmental site assessment. So it includes 2 of those items.
2.
Yeah, there will be continued work with the engineer. There will be continued work with the attorney.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So that's where some of that's coming from, but that's a big chunk of it.
And then speaking of the attorney, I'm just concerned if, I don't know, you mentioned some of this relative to the stage/stored materials on the property. Did you say that if we do purchase this, they're still allowed to do that? Or is that up in the air, a question mark?
I believe it's still a question mark.
Okay.
From my understanding of the agreement, they're allowing us to purchase it. The reason why the closing date is, 2022 as opposed to 2017 is because they were anticipating staging soil there during that whole period, and that the soil would no longer be staged there after we closed.
Right.
So I think that I still need to iron that down and confirm that with the attorney. And that might be a potential question that arises. Would North Shore still want that site to stage soil? Or do they not need that site anymore for soil staging? So it still needs to be worked out.
No, I agree, and I
Yeah.
just hope we keep that as a strong flag for our council to consider. I don't know for a fact, but they were probably thinking they could stage excavation from a potential boat basin, which is still far from being approved by Eagle, and they may not need it anymore. Then I'd wonder, the materials that are there now, whether it's clay or sand, do they remove that if we own it, or does that become our responsibility? So
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Yeah, so there's still a lot of questions. Yeah,
those are Curcio questions.
yeah, that's excellent question.
And I know you'll stay on top
Yeah,
of that. but
yeah.
That was my main issue, and just clarifying the cross, and you did that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Franco? I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve staff to initiate the process of closing on the approximate 5-acre property to be sold to the township for $1 from North Shores of Saugatuck LLC.
I'll support. We have motion and support. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And now we have item 5.5 or 5.5. That agenda item is the hiring process of the township manager. We had a memo from the city clerk, or the township clerk, excuse me. It's getting late. To take some action on this in one way or another. We have a new memo from the clerk. Some edits. There's some edits.
Did you want to?
Do you want to talk? about
Sure,
it?
yeah, I'll be speedy. At the February 16 township workshop meeting, we discussed and agreed that we should have the hiring process on tonight's agenda. Sorry for the late memo. I think there was a little confusion as who was going to kind of pick that up. Trustee Marcy agreed to gather feedback from all board members regarding this endeavor, so regarding the hiring process. Marcy compiled the information and shared it with all the board members. There was a lot of suggestions, but just a couple highlights include that kind of were repeated by more than one member, included changing the title to interim manager, effective immediately, or manager, posting the manager position to the township website, MTA and MML, accepting applications for 10 days, and suggestions regarding the manager's salary fell in the $55,000 to $75,000 a year annually, with benefits being comparable to existing office staff. While a short time has passed since the February 16 meeting, Operations Coordinator DeFranco has, in this clerk's experience, continued to exceed expectations in his position. It is the clerk's impression that the trustees generally share this line of thinking. I respectfully suggest that the board take action to establish a hiring process to fill the manager position, fully considering the exceptional work and desire to serve the township DeFranco has demonstrated consistently for years in his varied roles. And then I have a motion that I prepared.
Can I add a couple, just in the research? So I'm the one that compiled this. And I revisited our personnel policy handbook, which simply states that we can post it in the township hall if we want, advertise it if such other means is deemed appropriate. So it's a pretty open-ended policy, which is really nice, I think. The township board and manager reserve the right to determine if a vacancy is to be filled. So So I did that and just did a variety of research, but something that's happened in the interim or while I was doing this is that I've gotten unsolicited calls about Daniel's performance. I mean, it has been so exemplary. That never happens from people I did not expect to hear it from. It's just, I mean, just tonight's meeting, his understanding of every ounce of this material in such a short period of time still boggles my mind. So I think, as most people know, I was kind of moving one way. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to make a motion, mostly for the sake of discussion. So I'm gonna make a motion and then we are going to talk amongst each other, maybe agree to disagree, whatever. So in light of his performance, I feel that, okay, so transparency is an issue. Most of the time, I would suggest that we do post it. In this case, because people are approaching me, and I know others have gotten feedback, a lot of feedback, that to me, that is the transparency in our process, that people have approached me to say, you just gotta do something. You gotta take care of this, or, you know, don't blow it. Generally is the consensus. So I would like to move. Oh, and let me, just one other quick thing. There is a cost to posting a position, even if we do it where it's free, which is MTA is our organization that we pay dues to every year, and then MML, I think we do as well. But the cost is with the staff and what they have to do to do the postings, to process any applications, and that. So cost. Yeah, staff. Anyway, we'll discuss, John, it's okay. So I would like, in response to the clerk's suggestions, I would like to move that we fill the manager position without posting it. So we just simply take the action to pursue hiring Daniel. There's still more involved. There's got to be contracts, that kind of stuff. But that is the motion I'm putting before you.
And to change the title.
And oh gosh, that's the most important thing for a whole myriad of reasons. Daniel couldn't even talk to our MTA organization because of his title. So yes, that is in the motion. So to change the title to manager effective immediately and to take action to pursue hiring Daniel. How's that, the wording?
So you want to have the committee, correct?
Well,
Or not?
right, we'd have to, who would do like the contract?
She's not supporting
Negotiate
this
the
motion.
contract and
Right, so that comes
Right.
after, I would think. Do you want me to add the committee too? I can do that. To the motion?
I think somebody has to be in charge of, you know, negotiating, hiring and negotiating a contract. So,
Okay, so to that end, I would suggest that we change his title to manager immediately. That we take the action to pursue hiring him, and that we appoint a committee of two, as we have done in the past, to work out the details, the contracts, work with the lawyer.
Now, would it come back to us after that for a vote
On
then?
the contract,
Okay, but we
absolutely.
could vote on this to
Right,
hire
right.
without the contract, right?
Well, to pursue the
To
process to
pursue it,
hiring him
okay.
without,
But we will review the contract at the
we
next.
will, of course we will,
Okay.
yeah,
But she's taking out any cert.
Okay,
yes.
gotcha.
I've, you know, have had quite a few conversations and heard lots of different suggestions and the wants of the board. And I feel like, while I totally respect where you're coming from and hear what you're saying about why are we going to, you know, do a search when we have a candidate that's been doing really great work and we're hearing great things about. I think that the search is very brief. It's 10 days that we could, that two-person committee could, as per the motion, do the work of the posting. We can decide not to interview anybody, or there might be some exemplary person on there that we actually want to, you know, talk to, that we think could do a better job. I think it is a compromise and kind of fulfills most of the wants of the board, but that's just, but I hear exactly what, I respect what you're saying.
Before we move to discussion, should we have a second?
Yeah.
If there is. one.
Because it may die.
Right.
So
Right.
why don't we do that first and then we
Okay.
can, that's up to the supervisor.
Is there a second? Because if nobody else is going to make a second, I'll make a second. I think,
Okay, let's talk.
I don't know.
Well,
that-
she's making
I
a
think
second,
she's
right?
gonna have to restate her. Miss Jennifer at some point. Jennifer, was
I've
that
got
good
the
enough?
recording and I think I got it in all
Okay.
honesty.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
So,
I just want to say that I agree with Marcy that posting it other than internally in the office is a waste of people's time, not only the people that have to do the posting, arrange for it, and create the posting. You know, we don't have all that done. So it's not only a waste of our time and our staff time, but the people that make the application. Because we have, I think, found the best person, the best fit, and don't disregard his degrees. His people skills are beyond reproach. And I just hate to see somebody apply for it and get all excited and not to have any real true
Not to be
opportunity,
considered.
not to be
Right.
considered. So that's basically why I support not posting it. Having the committee is fine. It's just a matter then of the title will be effective immediately. And then bring the contract to the April meeting for approval.
I've heard from the committees I serve on. I'm on wellhead protection, I'm on the fire board. Everyone's impressed by Dr. DeFranco. I mean, I've gotten calls, and so I know we are, I feel in my heart, we're making a good choice, so.
Yes, and his ability to deal with difficult people is
Right.
we deal with difficult people.
not our constituents.
No,
character.
it's our
And
colleagues.
I will speak to, he's not been, well, he is done a lot of municipal work in terms of the committees and stuff that he's worked on for us and other, but in terms of direct experience, somebody reminded me that when you run a college classroom in terms of management and that kind of stuff, you develop those tremendous people skills, I think. So there's a lot of what he's had experience doing has translated unbelievably well into this job.
I'm just glad Daniel's here and we're in this position to have this little discussion, and I could really probably support either, you know, way to proceed down this path, so.
Do you know
I'm
who
not
would be
gonna-
on your committee, or
I
I
don't
would
think
hope
we're at
John
that
would,
point
oh, we're
yet.
not at
Yeah,
that
we're not at
point,
that
oh,
point
okay,
yet,
gotta
yeah.
say yes,
Right.
okay, good.
Hoping we can consider the
Hunt.
motion that's been presented to us separately. Well, I guess I'll comment that I don't disagree with anything that's been said about Mr. DeFranco. No one knows more about his day-to-day performance than I do. I believe the input that was done and led by Clerk Bigford on all this with the support of what you collected from us. And I cannot get over the fact that this board, after a month, would do anything that would call into question our transparency because of what happened last time round, when there was a rush that didn't necessarily work out. The last time we did an actual search is when Mr. Graham was hired. Again, a 10-day search is very short. And the amount of time needed to post these and edit is nothing. That's an exaggeration. There's much more potential cost by moving so quickly. I think April made sense to everyone, or most of us, and I've heard that some of us have actually heard feedback, including myself, from members of the public about the lack of transparency. And saying, why would you rush again? Why would you do what happened last time? And again, none of this, in my view, has anything to do
No, it doesn't.
with
No,
his
we know that.
talents. And
Yeah.
as I said, I'm the one here every day. And I applaud what you've put in front of us. I did notice one word was changed, and I don't know if that was intentional or, but we're not discussing that.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
I would implore us to move on to consider the motion presented by Clerk Bigford, and appreciate what you've said. I've said what I said. And again, it's about transparency and the reflection on the board and how we're behaving and what we're putting out there in the community, nothing to do with our current operations coordinator.
To that, I would just say that the biggest difference in this process has been that we've had them here. So when we hired the last person, we took a reference from someone, a couple of people, one person we respect. But he was not a known commodity, and most of the time they're not known. So that's what I would say to the transparency issue is we've had him here and it has been transparent.
Only for a few weeks,
In other roles.
and the public is not totally exposed to it.
But,
And again,
but also.
time goes quickly. It's almost April. so-
Yes, no, I'm not even concerned about the April date. That doesn't mean anything to me. But I'm just saying that, the old bird in the hand, but we have, it's his work ethic has been demonstrated, and that would be my
We all
answer
agree.
to anybody about the issue of transparency. And I have sat in that college, I have sat in so many group interviews and watched people, do the interview process. And in one case, we had someone who did one of the best interviews I've ever seen. She was brilliant on paper, but it didn't, you don't know. You can do everything you want. You don't know. You really don't know what you're getting. So that's what I'm saying.
Regardless, it's gonna happen in April. If
Right, well, the contract.
with the
yeah.
so I kind of tend to agree with John a little bit that for transparency, I think maybe you do post it. So that's my opinion, but although I don't imagine anyone,
I mean, it could be posted by Friday,
yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I
and
can't.
then you count 10 days, and the
I
committee
mean,
can start
just,
working.
you know.
We haven't appointed the committee yet.
Right.
They can start working
Right.
with council on fashioning a more, how should I put it? Well, a better constructed agreement than was
Well, we know.
last.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel
And
Dr. DeFranco will
I'm gonna blame COVID.
come
for a lot
out
of
on
that.
top. I
And
do
all that.
believe that, but I do believe that maybe we should post it just for transparency too.
So then, procedure-wise, would you see if there's a discussion call for a vote, and then if the vote is nay, then,
Make
okay.
a new motion.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion
Marcy?
by Marcy, supported by Osmond. And I guess since this one is not going to be unanimous, I will do a roll call on that. Marcy,
Yes.
Osmond, yes. Aldrich,
No,
Bigford,
No.
Helmut,
No,
motion fails. Would someone like to make a new motion?
I moved to change.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Can I ask a quick question first to Clerk Bigford, comparing it to what I had today? Was removing the word interim intentional or an oversight? In terms of the immediate action?
I think I went back and forth. It was just like last minute edits, like to how it read and stuff, so it doesn't matter to me either way. I made sense of it both ways.
Okay.
So you probably have to keep it interim
Right.
if the motion includes.
Right, I think that's fair,
Posting,
but I think the key thing is losing coordinator.
Yes,
And
yes,
dealing with these people that he's
yeah.
dealing with. Did you want to go ahead or you want? You started.
Oh, no,
I had a
I'm
question.
sorry. Go ahead.
All right, this is Helmrich. I'd like to move to change the job title of the current operations coordinator to interim manager effective immediately. Additionally, this will appoint 2 trustees to establish and initiate a hiring process to fill the manager position using the input from trustees compiled by trustee Marcy as a guide where applications would be accepted for 10 business days. The team of 2 trustees would, upon the closing of the 10 business days, be authorized to initiate hiring and contract negotiations. Contract and final approval to hire would require a board approval at the April meeting.
For support.
I'll support.
We have motion and support. Is there any further discussion? I will call the roll. Helmrich,
Yes,
Aldrich,
Yes.
Bigford,
Yes.
Marcy,
No.
Smiling.
Osman will vote no, just because there's
Don't
really
just
no
explain your
difference
vote.
between-
Yeah,
that's not what we do.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Yes.
Are we appointing the,
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Well, I have a thought. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I feel Treasurer Helmer should be on the committee because he's in the office day to day and he sees what's going on, and I just feel that he's got a grip on what the contract should say and opinions that I've talked to him about, so I'd like to see him on it.
Is there any other volunteers?
I have an interest in the contract just because I was involved with it last time and saw what worked well and what didn't. And I feel like I will have a very keen eye towards that contract moving forward. So I would be willing to do that.
Okay. Are you?
I'm very
willing
willing
accept?
to,
Would you like a
also from
motion?
the treasurer's point of view.
Yes, please.
I'll move to appoint trustees Helmrich and Bigford to the hiring process committee.
Support?
I'll support.
Okay, we have motion and support for having Helmrich and Bigford serve on the hiring process committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And we could move on to item number 6, which is pretty moot at this point.
Yeah.
I say, wait, what? Seeing double.
Can I say something
Yes,
about
please.
that? Can we bump that salary? I think we had up to the 49K in the meantime, which had been authorized.
In the meantime?
I was,
Yeah.
So I think we
I
could
was
still
suggesting that,
use
so.
this motion because the month to month, is still
And bump it up to the.
right, the
I don't
49.
even, do we even have to vote on that?
That was part of the original.
It was part of the original
Yeah.
discussion.
I
So
think the adjustment.
I think it should
just
be,
I mean, we could vote, but I think we could just make the adjustment.
make the adjustment.
Yeah.
Okay. 49
That's
in
okay with
in
me.
the.
That's already
Great.
been authorized.
Yeah, it's already been
All
authorized.
right,
So a motion is not needed.
No.
Okay.
The rest of the number 6 is not relevant.
right.
I mean, So, old Old business, we have the website design proposal selection. I know Mr. DeFranco is all over this one as well, and we've had some discussions with staff about that. So, Mr. DeFranco, do you want to weigh in, or do you just want to?
I can weigh in a little bit,
Okay.
but I do want to say thank you to all, because I'm just so proud to represent you. I think you're also thoughtful, and I feel that the township is surrounded by a lot of talent, one of them being Dana Bird. They're attorneys, and so I'm very proud to be working in this capacity with all of you, and I just want to say I appreciate everyone. But back to the website. So we did put out an RFP December 2nd. We got 6 responses. I thought all the responses were very impressive. They came from, like I said, they came from all over the place. We got one from Santa Rosa, California. We had some local ones. One was from Douglas. One was from, I think they were in Berrien County somewhere. I did go through them all using the bid sheet that was created. It was part of the RFP. So I just thought it was appropriate to continue that process, because that was what was shared with that was what was part of the RFP. So these companies were, I think, probably judging their own RFP or their proposals against that. There were a few ones that came to the top, and they're all kind of different. So I pulled out 3, one of them being Insight Marketing Design out of Sioux Falls. They are a little pricey on the development side, but I thought that they were, they weren't the most expensive bid that we got in, but I thought that for the creative, they were top notch. Lots of municipal government experience. I did speak with them on the phone. They said that, and I got this consistently, that our RFP was very thorough, but perhaps asking for items that are not necessary for a community of our size, and perhaps sometimes not even necessary for a government website. So like we had search engine optimization in there, and we're not really competing against any other Saugatuck townships for traffic. So I imagine that price will come down. They said that, and they said that they were willing to work with us. Another one that I looked at, Civic Engage, all they do is municipal websites. It's a much more competitive price. I think that their websites are definitely functional. They're not bad looking. The one concern I had was it does tie us to an annual service fee of $31,000 or $30,150. That goes up 5% each year. For some larger municipalities, because they do service full-on cities, I think that function makes sense. A part of that cost is 24/7 support. Yeah, exactly. Office support. If we were having, court dates and parking tickets and all sorts of services, you'd want that, 24/7 support. I think we called our website developer once since the month and a half I've been here. And that $3,000, you can't get out of it. That's the price. So if you don't use the service, you still have to pay it. And they do use a content management system that is not as common as the other 2 options I presented, which is WordPress, which is what we have. So there may not be the flexibility of contracting with a local web developer down the road for more cost-effective solutions. So that was one concern I had with them, although they have the municipal experience. And I also put down our kind of most local proposal that we got from Douglas, Michigan. They came in at $14,000. They have some municipal experience. They've done the city of the village of Douglas. They've also done the Saugatuck Douglas Library's website. I do think that they have some creative talent that they could share with us in terms of developing a brand identity. That was also something I was really interested in, because I think that our community has so much personality, and I would love us to have a consistent, real clearly defined brand identity. So I think that they could contribute to that. But again, I was a little concerned that there isn't as much municipal experience. And I think for this process, I would like a little bit of hand-holding. So those are the 3 things, 3 sites or 3 proposals that I thought just warranted some review. I did go through number one and number two with our community development coordinator, Ms. Drew or Mrs. Drew. And it was a great experience because I'm looking for certain things. Jennifer's looking for specific things, especially because she does a lot with building and permits. So I think maybe a little more work with some of the staff members who are actually, utilizing aspects of the websites would be helpful to making a determination of, which company satisfies all of the needs and maybe goes a little bit above and beyond for some of those wish list items. But those are kind of my top picks. I really liked Insight, even though it's a little pricey, but I think we could get that down just because they deliver on that really beautiful website with clear brand identity, but it's very user friendly. It's very uncluttered. It's some of these elements that I think would really be great for our own website. And then you have Civic Engage, that a lot of municipal experience. They would fit the bill, but I don't think they're going to deliver on any of that kind of brand identity.
Do you have a question? I do. So I went through and kind of, went to all of their websites and looked at their work, and clearly to me, Insight did stand out from the group as just, there was the most wow factor there, and it was just the most aesthetically appealing and, to navigate around. Do you have a suggestion or a thought how we could approve accepting a proposal and moving forward, but also because that's, and I understand the service fees do, or the support, whatever, do offset things, but that's, twice as much as the other two proposals. So is there a way, do you have any suggestions regarding that? Like, we can go with this proposal if we can get it into a different price range? And I understand it's gonna be more because they just are great, so.
And we're not paying $3,100.
Right, so that does.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a suggestion for
Yeah.
a motion,
Okay.
but I was gonna ask, you did send everyone that list of 9.
Yes.
I did.
And I was gonna encourage everyone to look at them.
I did look at them.
Even though none of us are web design
Yeah.
experts. And I looked, one I couldn't access for security reasons. So I've only seen 8 of the 9, but I was also looking at it as a staff user. Because again, a lot of municipalities outside of Michigan don't collect property tax. The county doesn't.
Right.
So I couldn't do that. But then conversely, as you pointed out, a lot of these, they've got parking tickets and utility bills and all these things that we'll never have.
Right.
So I was also trying to be aesthetic, but also trying to manipulate it. But I think it's great that you're involving all the staff and Lori as well as Jennifer. So I was thinking that if we maybe passed a motion today, giving the new interim manager maybe a 10-day period to do more work with staff, and that we would go with his decision up to a dollar amount, and let's set it at 20,000 because I think he feels very strongly
That's
that
pretty,
the
I was
RFP was a
thinking.
lot more grandiose than we
That's
need.
exactly what I was gonna suggest, the
So,
20,000.
Yeah, so my view is I don't think he needs to come back to us unless
Right.
people want him to.
I
As
like
I said,
that.
we're not experts, but I would encourage people beyond what you've said, if you really have looked at them all, send them what you think. Because I had thoughts and I already told some of them, I think. Personally, I don't like the ones that are all white. It's like, where's the color? I said, our current website, which I'm not a huge fan of, was to me aesthetically nicer than some of the ones I looked at. So, but I think we could trust.
Okay, I like
That's-
that.
I like that too.
Can I ask
agree.
just one quick question? And maybe you said this and I missed it.
Mhm.
So because we were so grandiose in our RFP request, so there is a possibility that will bring the cost down, the original quote, because we're not gonna be using some of these other modules or whatever they are.
I believe so, because like, for instance, Civic Engage has the advantage because they just have these templates. They just kind of, that's what they can quote for everybody.
Yeah.
Slant I actually spoke to, and they kind of filtered our RFP and said, oh, you don't really need that, you don't really that, and they kind of excluded it. Whereas Insight doesn't know who we are, and they do a lot of custom work, and so they kind of gave us, you know, the top line.
Right, got it, okay.
Exactly what we asked for. And it's kind of interesting, you know, going through the budget. What was originally budgeted was 25,000 for the website. And then this was a little challenging. Budgeted for yearly maintenance was 7,800. So I'm not quite sure what all was involved with that. But I don't think that if we get a nice site, we need $7,800 a year to maintain it. It's a lot. And unfortunately, there wasn't really a breakdown of that cost. So I'm not quite sure the thought that went into budgeting that much. But everything does come in under budget. Though I really am confident I can bring that number down with Insight. Hopefully I can bring it down lower than 20. But they seem very excited with the possibility of working with us. They were somewhat familiar with our community, and they haven't worked in Michigan before, but they do with a lot of communities in kind of mountain towns and, towns that have a lot of outdoor recreation and preservation. So I think we're like kindred spirits there.
Great.
So which is the one where they all look alike?
Slant.
No, Civic.
Oh, Civic.
Civic.
Oh, yes, Civic. They all look alike.
Same.
They're the same. It's a
Certain
template, yeah.
No, I thought slants were quite varied.
They were,
And
yeah,
to very local, so,
very local.
but again. We're not making that decision.
Who would like to move? Who's got it?
I thought you said you had it right now.
Well,
Yeah, let's have John.
Yeah, I do.
nominate
I don't have a word
John.
for a word, but here I go. I said, I'd like to move to what? Oh, that's I'd like to move to authorize our interim manager to involve staff and conduct a 10-day review of the proposals submitted to us for website design. And after the 10-day period, make a decision as to which company to choose with a ceiling cost of $20,000 for the design development portion of the project.
I'll support.
Let me do it.
Yeah. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All of those opposed? Motion carries. And we're on to our next item. Is the personnel policy handbooks updates. We have just a couple of, if just Dr. DeFranco could point out to which page we're looking for.
98 and 99.
Yeah.
Everybody's turning. Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Absolutely.
The option 1 and option 2, the option 1s are tied to each other and the option 2s are tied to each other.
So this was that was the intention.
Okay.
But what ended up happening is option 1 on page 98 is actually tied to option 2 on page 99,
That's
whereas
what was
yeah.
becoming clearer. to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not
Got it.
quite sure how I switched that,
Okay.
but that's what happened. Yeah, so in approving option 1 on page 98, it's connected to option 2 on 99. It's just the
Got
way
it.
that the other written.
I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the other way around, right?
And the other way around, option 2 on page 98 is connected to option 1 on page 99.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. So this is coming back before the board. Originally, I presented this as, if the schools are closed, the township hall closes. And I did receive some feedback from the board on that. And I came up with 2 options because I did still kind of hear some disagreement. So the first option essentially says that closing of the hall due to inclement weather is completely within the discretion of the township manager. However, the township manager ought to consider whether or not the schools are closing in making that determination. So if the schools are closed, the manager should pay attention to that and weigh that in their decision to stay open or close. The second one essentially says the hall closes if the school's closed due to inclement weather. However, the manager does, or it's up to the discretion of the manager whether or not there is a late opening of the hall. And then the options 1 and 2 on the second page are essentially just about how that information is conveyed to staff and the public. So the real big decision is between option 1 and 2 on 98, and then the other two just kind of set, like a protocol for informing staff and informing the public, just so everybody knows what to do.
So I'd like to move to approve the adoption of the updated personnel policy handbook as presented, option 1 on 98. And do we vote on 99 or is that just option 2? Just may as well just sort it on page 9.
So option 1 on 98.
I'll support.
And option 2 on 99.
Have motion and support. Is there any further discussion?
So I just want to be clear, because I keep. So neither of these are the ones where the office can be reopened.
This is to the discretion of the manager.
I know, but
Close or
I'm
not?
looking.
Okay, yeah, nothing to do, yeah. Look out the window.
Closed, you closed.
Closing,
Yes.
look out the window.
Although I've been in a raging blizzard at the lake and I come
Oh,
home
it's
and there's
different
none.
climates, I know.
So, or in Holland and come home and there's, anyway. I digress.
Really, communication by text and phone.
Very good. We have motion and support. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
I think it's me.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Treasury report.
All right, oh. No, it's not that late, actually. Okay,
We were here earlier.
that's right. All right, so this is my treasurer's report for March 9th, 2022. Okay, as we always start out, our general fund bank balance as of March 1st was up $600,000 from February due to the collected property taxes for township millages. General fund revenue was 29% ahead of budget. Expenditures were 7% below budget. So both positive. I wanted to point out, state revenue sharing, which you probably have been reading a lot about, but state revenue sharing, our annual marijuana licenses and building permits all continue to be well ahead of budget. In fact, 80% of our revenue lines are ahead of budget. We continue to have no departmental spending overages, and across all funds, including the more restricted ones, revenue is 5% ahead of budget and expenditures are 29% behind. I do want to point out, I'm going to mention it, my last point. Daniel and I are sitting down tomorrow for, I think we've scheduled 2.5 hours. We may not get through it all, but we're going to go through every line of the revenue versus expenditure.
Oh.
And I'm looking forward to it too, because I haven't been as deeply involved in it as I had been. Because things like, if we know state revenue is going to be higher next year, let's budget closer to what we think it's going to be. That's also that allows us to increase our expenditure budget. We also have some things to fix. We have not been, in terms of coding things, putting the marijuana fees where by law they should be. We know which things need to be moved, and that's something that I'll work with the deputy clerk on. So we really want to clean things up and be more accurate than perhaps we've been in the past. So tomorrow is step one, and I'm looking forward to that. And you'll be hearing more about it as we move into budget season. So the winter tax season for 2021 ended last Monday, February 28th. Again, many thanks to my trusted trustee and deputy treasurer, because we had a lot more, I think, end of near the deadline payments, and a lot more mistakes. You've all heard me talk about a multiple property owner that not only paid all his taxes on credit card for last year, but then put in payments for the previous 2 years, which he'd already paid to the county, and now they're in our bank, and I gotta get it out of there because it's not our money. So it's been a challenging couple of weeks.
It's never boring.
I'll be settling with the county, which I always look forward to, next Tuesday, March 15th. On the disbursements front, this was the big month, of course, because most of the money came in. In the consent agreement, I always say that, the consent agenda, excuse me. Tonight, just to remind you, we made payout number 4 on the disbursements was $1.372 million. Number 5 was $1.8 million. There will be 2 more disbursements by April 1st. The 2 together should total less than $700,000 because most of the money has been dispersed. Seems to me that about 82% of all billed parcels paid by deadline, which was a bit lower than the return rate last year. But now that's the county's problem, and they'll pay us and make us whole. Investments, can you put that up? The next, is it up there now? Yes, I don't know if you can see it. I was gonna make a hand up because it's not my usual format. Now I'm not even finding this one. I'm still playing with, I'm trying to redo the entire spreadsheet so it's got more pertinent information and it designates, what kind of some of the investments are. So I'm gonna have to read this. I apologize for that. No, it's here. Duh. Right on top of Kevin's campaign card. So I wanted to give you a real snapshot of where we are without some of the detail I am working on. And I know I've been promising this, it's coming. So this is as of March 1st, our total financial investment summary. Michigan Class is the municipal pool we belong to. It stood at $1,176,536, but 176,000 of that is where we're storing ARPA funds, which is what that asterisk stands for. Multi-bank securities, one of our 2 municipal advisors. We have federal bonds with them totaling $637,800. D.A. Davidson, another municipal advisor. We have federal bonds and a CD with them now, and those total $388,885. We have a separate standalone CD with the First National Bank of America, which is now at $251,317. So the grand total here, and this now 2 asterisks, our total investments, not counting the ARPA money, because that's just kind of stored, is $2,278,673. That's an increase of over $480,000 from January, not just from interest and performance. Because we bought 2 more products, but I'll endorse that. I still think maybe in April, we buy a couple more because as you heard, our general fund bank account keeps rising because of the more income. It's not all protected, and let's put it to work for us. So we'll talk more about that in the next few weeks.
Keeping my eyes on rates and they're not encouraging, but.
Well, doing better than stocks, right? So the only other thing on my report I've already mentioned, and that was what we're going to start doing tomorrow to indoctrinate Daniel into the fun of, we're going to start with how money is accounted for before we get into how we plot next year.
Right.
And the BSNA thing, but I know he's as excited as I am.
Very excited.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, you're not done, Mr. Helmrich.
All right, boom, boom, boom. You always
Yep.
do this to me. All right. So planning commission met also last Monday, February 28th. No public comment, which is unusual. Boy, township engineer, David Danenberg. You've been doing a lot of presentations. He spoke to economic development yesterday too, but he came to the PC because Chair Israel's invited him, and I think this was really helpful to give a presentation on his role and duties serving the township as our engineer and how he interacts with staff and applicants and agencies that are then coming before the planning commission. And I think it was really good to fill everyone in on that, so there can be more, what's the right word? Informed decisions made. We had a public hearing for LBs, as in LB Blomart, Green Mitten. This is a proposed new marijuana growth facility in the Just Barnes complex off of Blue Star near the South Highway interchange. As this will be in an existing building, there was no need for a site plan review. And the special approval use was approved 5-0 with several conditions placed on them, including more extensive detail on the security plan for the facility. The 3 advisory committees gave updates on their respective ranking of possible ordinance changes considered top priority. And in your packet, I'm not going to go through this, but I wanted to just let you know, this is how the committees are working. And then this version here is an integrated one that Renee Wells put together. Each group listed ordinances and goals and ranked them A, B, and C. So Renee only put A's on here. This is like for the first next step. And she's anticipating, her recommendation and request was for the planning commission to choose between the 3, which to address first. And the decision was made to start with attainable housing, then economic development, and then rural character and conservation. She believes that she'll do her work on potential changes and tweaks. And then some of these will be new ordinances, but the first public hearings could happen as soon as June. And she also feels that each of these committees, one hearing could handle multiple ordinances. So we'll see, but that's the game plan. And she's been incredible working with the 3 advisory committees. Let's see. Oh, and one thing she did point out, because the board had asked for more, had asked the planning commission to look closer into the Natural River Overlay District. She kind of threw that back again to the rural character group to get more, have some more of the research done by them before she reports back to us. Let's see, I've already said the next point. That's the Google Doc chart that Renee and all the committees worked so hard on. She just updated us on the Van Horn properties. Apparently, because at one point we were told that he had pulled back his application to Eagle for a permit. Apparently, he resubmitted it. And they're reporting back that there could be a decision with the month or so. They're having extreme Eagle, that is the state agencies having some pretty major staff issues with COVID. And there's like, apparently now there's only one person at Eagle reviewing any mining application for the entire state. And that could be a sand mine, a mineral mine, or in our case, a man-made water feature. We did discuss perhaps moving planning commission meetings to Tuesday from Monday, which would better suit Renee's schedule since Tuesday's a day in the office. It was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. So decision was not final was not made. So the April meeting will still be on the last Monday of April, the 25th at 6 p.m.
What does PA mean?
What's that?
PA on this? I don't know, I'm just curious.
What column is it in?
Initial responsibility, PA.
Put it away.
It's for housing. I don't know what that means.
I was
looking
looking,
at
couldn't
just
figure it
that.
out.
Oh, that's.
Is that someone's initials maybe,
That's-
because below its name?
Yeah,
That's
everybody's got-
Denise Webster's group. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if anyone did a P in her group.
well, we'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Everyone
Just
else's
curious.
has actual
Okay.
names of
Names,
committees
yeah.
and staff, so.
How's doing it?
Yeah.
Am I too?
And then I guess, what do we know for
It
sure?
probably means planning administrator.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
So smart.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Well, yeah, often known as a planner and a
Yeah.
ZA, so, or a PCA.
Right.
That's good.
And I would like to add something to that. I did meet with Lene and as planning administrator and myself as zoning administrator and with Nick Wicker from Douglas to plan
nice.
for our planning master plan review. All the census information is not available yet, and it probably won't be available until September. So we're gonna meet again this summer to see where we are with that, and if we can move ahead with a tri-community meeting. And we are having zoning consultant David Jurassic in our planning commission meeting on the 17th. And it is a public meeting. And so for the first hour, he's going to review what the process for the master plan is, what's the role of the consultant, what to expect. So if anybody from our planning commission wants to zoom into that meeting, the information is on our website. And it's just a real basic how to plan for the master plan discussion.
And I'm glad you mentioned census figures, because back to revenue sharing, currently our revenue share is based on our 2010 census. We got notification from the state this week that the 2020 numbers, and as you know, ours went up 18%, will be rewarded. Some of that will be rewarded retroactively, which again speaks to we need to budget that revenue sharing income more accurately. So that's a good point. And I just want to mention one thing, at the April 25th Planning Commission meeting, obviously we don't have an agenda yet, but I do know that some of you might be interested to know that this will be the public hearing, because that rezoning that we all approved down across from the whatnot, next to the fruit market, a Dollar General has applied to go in there.
That's on March, not April.
What's that?
That's in March, not April. It's at the end of this month, not next.
And
month.
that's what I meant to say.
Okay.
So it's a mistake on my little summary. Yes, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Okay.
The March Planning Commission meeting will include the public hearing on a potential Dollar General. And we've been getting inquiries in the office already. So,
Okay,
all right, thank you, guys.
thank you. Dr. DeFranco, the operations coordinator, he submitted us a nice written report.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any highlights you'd like to hit on?
One highlight I'd like to hit on, I did have a sit down with Craig Atwood, and please forgive me, Phil Kernodle of the Allegheny County Road Commission.
Is he new? Did he replace Jason maybe, or?
He may have, he seemed
Yeah.
very comfortable there,
Yeah.
so.
Phil's been around.
Yeah, he's been, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they were just so nice, and they, we just went through kind of everything going on in the township. And it was just a great insight, and I was able to bring up things that I saw in our own roads plan, like especially special projects that now I realize that we could engage in. It was great to kind of see things from their perspective, and they actually had some specific asks from us. So they would like it if our 5-year road plan was easily accessible to them on our website. That was the specific ask. So hopefully that's going to be a good relationship. And now knowing kind of how they operate, like for instance, we had a little discussion about the Blue Star Safety Committee or Advisory Committee that had been formed, and kind of confusions they had with that. And they said, well, if you have a specific intersection, we could deal with that, but we can't necessarily deal with this kind of like give you a grand master plan of Blue Star. So I think that'll be helpful moving forward. I'm trying to think, there's some grant opportunities that are moving forward. One of them I'm working with Dana Bird. Dana's done the vast majority of the work here, but we are meeting with NOAA and NIFWIF, the National Fish and Wildlife Federation, tomorrow to discuss the progress on that grant. That is for a feasibility study for shoreline erosion along River Bluff Park, so that's pretty cool. Bike trail grant, we've been working with that. Representatives or myself, Trustee Aldrich and representatives from Park Commission met with the Outdoor Discovery Center, and Aaron Smith from New Standard had discussions about potential projects that New Standard might be interested in funding. But I think it was a great experience just to see the campus of Outdoor Discovery Center and all of their innovative ideas that they've come up with. Things that we might integrate in our own park system, things that we might integrate at the township hall potentially. So I think it was just a very inspiring trip and, just kind of a team building exercise. We have made some progress in enforcement. We have a complaint written up and submitted by Attorney Curcio to the circuit court. We are waiting feedback on that. Essentially, it is, a court order for an illegal trucking operation on 66th Street, south of the river, to cease operations. It is a very disruptive, concerning operation. These trucks don't just sit there, they run all night. They're produce storage trucks. So highly disruptive to neighbors. They're doing work on trucks in a accessory barn. There are fuel tanks on the property. So we're taking steps to, Planning Commission last year denied their special use approval for such an operation. A year has gone by, they've continued to do their work. So we're kind of stepping up and saying, you can't do that. Attorney Curcio did build into his request to the court that the township have the ability to boot any semi trucks on the property, and that the property owner must pay for the cost of the booting and $1,000 fine. I did talk to Nick Curcio about this, and he said that we don't have to follow through with that if we don't want to, but the option is there if we want another mechanism to kind of send the signal that we're serious before having to go back to court, which would essentially result in the arrest of the property owner. So it's a pretty serious level we've raised it to. So it is kind of a little bit scary. It's kind of out of our comfort zone. We don't have to do it, but it is a tool that will be, available to us. We've also set a date for the Otting property cleanup on Old Allegan Road. We've received continuous complaints from neighbors. We've received pictures of additional debris on the property. So that cleanup date will occur April 18th. The cleanup crew anticipates 4 days, but they have not been able to really see the site. So they've been asking that I coordinate with the sheriff's office and ask for flexibility to have 2 additional days in case it runs 6 days. So that's all set up. It's all in the works. I am in contact with the sheriff's office. Something that we talked about in the master plan is the strategic goals, a commitment to excellence. Part of that is improvements to the township hall. There is a big improvement project underway. We have our first design session with Alba Marsh set for this Friday. I only just confirmed it the other day. They were kind of went back and forth. Chairperson of the Planning Commission, Becky Israels, and Trustee Aldrich did a fabulous job of interviewing all staff so thoroughly. They made us feel so special, asking us about our needs and our wants for the new space. So we have all of that to provide to Aubon Marsh. I'm also working on a kind of future vision for the township piece for them, so they know the direction we want to go in, especially if there's kind of future additions that we want to add. So that's the kind of big thing that kind of contribution to commitment of excellence. But we've also been doing little things. On your way out, please note the new exterior lighting is all set up. So we have higher wattage, warmer light, all the lights work now. So you should feel confident stepping off the curb that you can see what's on the other side. So that's a little thing that we've done. Our labor blob.
It's a big thing.
It's a big, yeah.
I do too. I
Yes,
agree.
police lights were out for over a year.
I
So,
agree.
yeah, we had labor law posters that were expired in 2004. They are now current and they are up in the hall on display. So that's another kind of little improvement, but still going towards that. And we had some feedback from the fire district saying that we don't have a Knox box, which
Right.
not only do all the other municipality halls have, but is a requirement, is a building requirement for all commercial buildings. We now have that Knox box installed. I am waiting for Chris Mantles to come and put the sticker on it and put our key in it and shut the door, and we will be able to check that off. So if there's a fire, the fire district will be able to safely enter the building without destroying any of our property.
Without their universal key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're at the university.
Universal
Yeah.
key.
And then the last thing, I'm gonna try to do it quickly, ARPA money coming from the county. We heard their county commissioner saying that they have dedicated money, ARPA funds to, how do I wanna say this? They're willing to financially contribute to infrastructure projects in municipalities in the county, specifically with broadband and water. They have developed a work group for broadband expansion. They don't have a ton of money. They have about $22 million to divide up amongst the county. So I have expressed that we are interested in spending ARPA money on broadband. I believe Jill Dunham is in charge of that. So I have been in contact with her. She's advocated that we look into feasibility studies to identify where we don't have broadband in the township and how we might provide broadband to those areas. There's also additional money coming from the federal infrastructure bill that was passed, and that's quite, that's a substantial chunk of money. So if we do have a feasibility study completed, we become much more competitive for applying for grants for that money, so we can actually do the work as opposed to just know where our problems are. So that's something to think about. And also for water, we do have water improvement in projects that are coming up that we are financially responsible for. One of them, really, it's a public health issue. We've known about it for quite a while. So this is replacing, or I guess it is replacing and installing a new water line on Riverside Drive and Dugout Road. So we've done a lot of work on that. So that's something that's almost ready-made that we can just, email the county now and say, we want money to help fund this project. We think it's super important. It's a public health issue. We have to do it. So that's just something, again, that we should be thinking about reaching out to the county. It's my understanding that the money that we put up for these projects doesn't necessarily need to be ARPA money. The money that will match it from the county will be their ARPA money. I do need to confirm that, but that's my understanding at this point. That's kind of quick overview of everything, a little bit what's going on.
And just as a coincidence to share with everyone, out of the blue this week, Comcast has been here for 3 days, laying fiber optics.
I've heard, yeah.
Here, they were by Clearbrook. I don't know if they're doing all of 64th Street. And they said it was the police that called them first to say they wanted it, so they're hooked up.
Wow.
We have to find out how much if we even need it.
Yeah.
But it's out there, so it's just interesting with this kind of
It's a vast
broadband
improvement.
infrastructure.
The fiber is,
It's kind of taking care of itself, but we should do it feasible.
we, just as an aside, we do have one retailer that I know of on Butler.
Do what?
Still uses dial-up and says it's better. I hadn't heard that
I didn't know it
sound.
even existed.
I said that to her. I said, yeah, so,
Oh God, I can hear that.
yeah, that noise.
God, it's awful traveling.
Yeah.
For that. Yeah.
So,
Great, cool.
Oh, you don't have open board report.
Well, that's just going around.
I
Oh,
don't know how it get deleted.
I have it on my
It's on mine,
agenda.
yeah.
No, it's not
No,
in my
I-
slide.
Oh, in your slide.
It got deleted by accident.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's trying to shut us down.
let's do our open board report. And is there any volunteers to go first?
I'll go first. I just want to say, everything that we were talking about tonight, things that we voted on, the whole, one of the goals of the original group was this collaboration, and we have done so many tri-community projects. I mean, look what we did tonight, the recycling, the bike. I mean, I think it's been wonderful. So I just want to mention it. And I could mention that Daniel's been wonderful again.
Okay.
Probably goes without saying.
We-
Oh, and John as well, through the tax season and that,
Oh,
it's a tough time, so. And you guys working on the investments, that is out of my pay grade. So. It's
We're
really
trying,
great,
thank you.
great things going on. So,
want to call you Skipper, but I know that's wrong.
Bigford. No, I don't have.
Oh, of course I do. I want to urge my colleagues to consider attending the MTA conference since it's back in person.
And where is it again? Is it Frank?
City?
Is
or
it-
Travers, that's who you're right.
No, I don't.
New
know.
I
York?
think it's,
I'll go.
I'm sorry, I don't
It's
know,
in Grand Rapids.
because I
It's
can't go
Traverse
because it's
City,
a,
When is it?
But it's not as far as Frankenmuth.
it's the last week of April.
Right, okay.
No, I'll be gone.
And it's also the same week I'll be at the Michigan Municipal
Emma.
Treasurers Association. I'll be graduating from the Basic Institute after my
Wow,
third year.
congratulations.
But MTA is great to go to
Yeah, I know,
I
I've
did a lot
always
of it
wanted to do
by
it.
Zoom. And we went one year when it was in Grand Rapids, which was great. So think about it. You've all got the magazine, you've got information about it. But- And I also want to thank Mr. Andrews for joining us tonight and staying through a whole meeting.
Yeah.
Please, everybody hung on.
I have had the honor of meeting him before
great.
tonight,
I think we should go on.
and I've been working on an email that I might get out tonight or not till tomorrow, but I want to invite all my colleagues next Wednesday night, right?
16.
At Isabel's.
Okay.
The Allegan County Democratic Party is holding a forum because Joey's running for this new seat.
Right,
And because of its configuration, there is a chance it could become a blue district unless Mr. Whiteford prevails. And there's another Democrat running, which is great. I mean, there's a primary. They're both going to be at Isabel's, I think at 6 o'clock.
okay.
So
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
urge you to stop by. if
That's
you can.
Wednesday that's
Pick me
coming?
Yeah, next Wednesday,
Okay.
day before St. Patrick's.
Pick me up, Jen.
Yes, so-
Well,
Thanks.
practice
What?
for St. Patrick's.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
But I commend you for sitting through this whole meeting.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, not the longest I've sat through so far this
Yeah.
year.
Well, we've had a lot
Wow.
of.
They haven't adjourned
It's
yet.
on our clever side.
You just jinxed it.
Any more comments from Mr. Helmer?
No, sit down.
All good?
Nothing.
I just have a couple of comments, I'll keep it really short. I think that dedicating some of our ARPA money to broadband research or
Feasibility.
feasibility
yeah.
study is really, really important,
Yeah, I
and really appropriate. And just a reminder that March 17th, we will be having David Jurassic, zoning consultant, giving a presentation, and it's open to the public. We're paying for it, the city's paying for it. But all the other planning commissioners that want to attend could get some benefit from it.
That during the day or in
It's 7 o'clock in the evening
on March 17th.
on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day.
Got it.
Have you shared that with Becky to tell PC
I
about?
think I did. But if I did.
Probably bears, she's been away, so I bears with.
Repeating, yeah. And with that, I would entertain, we have to have public comments.
We all want to go home. There's your comment.
You didn't have to stay.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
I'll support. All those in favor?
Aye.
I adjourn.
I didn't think that was too big of a leap.